What's going on, everybody? Cali Death Podcast back once again, episode 78. Always happy to be here with you guys. Another Thursday in weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks that we've been doing this. Always here with my resident homies, Joel, Joseph, and Casey. The professor is back. What up, y'all?
Yo.
What
yo,
up?
yo, yo. And tonight we are Jesus Christ. We are I can't even
We
spell
are
it out.
podcast. We are podcast.
Yes, we are joined by two guys that one has already been on. Hunter, what's going on, dude? Hunter Ginn back once again.
Yo.
Drummer of Canvas Solaris and many other projects that we'll be talking about this evening. And he's also been doing a podcast called Radical Research, and I've been a fan of it for a long time. The professor's been a fan of it for a long time, basically ever since Hunter came on the first time, and is still a listener today. And Radical Research is just a show where these very intellectual dudes sit and talk obscure metal, dude, and I fucking love it because I love obscure metal. I love, the experimental, the avant-garde. I love it all. So when you shed light on some of these bands that I know and don't know, it's like these bands should come to light for somebody like me, and there's got to be more people out there like me. And I think that Radical Research is a great podcast for you guys to be exposed to the weird and the experimental and all that stuff that's going on in the underground. But yes, new guest today, his co-host on that show, Jeff Wagner. What's going on, dude?
Hello.
How are you, man?
I'm great.
Good.
To meet
Jeff
you guys.
Jeff is a author as well. I forget the name of the book. Sorry, what was it?
Well, I've done in 2010, Mean Deviation came out. It's on Bazillion Points. That was a history of progressive heavy metal. 2014, Soul on Fire came out, which was a biography on Peter Steele of Carnivore and Typo Negative. And my third book is coming out in July. It's a Fates Warning history. I talked to every single guy in Fates Warning, past and present. And every single thing you do, you guys know as musicians, or Hunter's done some writing as well as a musician. Anything you do is you do because you want it out there in the world. And I wanted to see a book on progressive metal, so I did it. I wanted to see a book on Peter Steele. Same thing with Fates Warning. And the Fates Warning was really a more of a labor of love than even the other ones. I mean, not to knock the other ones, but I think Hunter can attest to my obsession with this band. And it was great to be able to work with them all and to just get the story right and to get it from the horse's mouth and to write it my way. They allowed me to do what I wanted to do. So.
And when does that forthcoming book come out?
July 15th. And I'll start taking pre-orders May 15th. And we'll be informing everybody through the usual channels on how to do that.
Killer. Hunter, you got any places you want to plug real quick for Canvas or other projects?
No, I don't think anything that we didn't talk about last time. Got my my new band with Gail Perlow, Plague Psalm. Our first album, Shivers of Transmigration, is now out. It's on the Earth and Sound label, owned by Jason Walton from Sculptured and Agalloch. And then Gail's...
That's got a real quick. That's got a limited edition cassette or something that you.
It's a limited edition cassette, yeah.
Okay.
But we also have Bandcamp too, so anyone that wants to download that digitally can do so. And then Gail's album for his band Gorging Shade, that's almost done. Just got to do some vocals and be set there. So yeah.
Yeah, I've heard both those I've heard both
And
those
actually,
projects, and I love them.
I'm going to be putting out a magazine later this year called Deserts of Hex, and the contributions are starting to roll in. I'm doing some writing to finish up with that, and yeah, pretty stoked.
What is like the theme of the magazine?
Really, just kind of it's an interdisciplinary magazine between literature and film and music. The music being the foundation, and music of a darker, more obscure sort. The black metal. There's going to be a really, really big Devil Doll feature in it. But yeah,
Killer, dude.
yeah.
Nice.
So we're
We'll be
busy.
watching out for that. Yeah.
Cool.
Zines are awesome, dude. I actually loved that. Was one of my favorite parts of coming up and learning about metal was going and getting new magazines, dude.
Same.
And the physical magazine is probably still publications that are making them, but I mean, I'm not heading out to fucking Barnes and Noble to grab anything anytime soon. You know?
I mean, Jeff and I have a good friend, guy named Shiver that does. He's actually out in California. He does black metal fanzine called Arcane Archivist, and that was a real inspiration for me. Kind of an impetus to do my own thing. Just having a new magazine and being able to open something up physically and touch it was really, really inspiring.
Totally. Can we plug Bardo Methodology too? Because
absolutely.
That's something that I became obsessed with last year. The guys had a website called Bardo Methodology. I don't know if you guys know it. Maybe I'm preaching to the choir, but he also does a print magazine as well. And for my money, it's some of the best writing on metal and other topics. I mean, he talks about esoterica and various hallucinogens and practitioners of such. And it's just, I mean, he gets into history big time, and it's never boring. You know, it
sounds right up my alley, dude.
Yeah, it's definitely got a lot of black metal foundation, but he's not afraid to go outside of the bounds. It's Bardo Methodology. It's really the greatest thing since Istin, in my opinion, in terms of print zines.
Cool. Yeah. Right on. So, Hunter, we got your backstory last time, but I'd like to dig into Jeff right now if we can. Jeff, so how we usually start this off is take us back as far as you can into your childhood, dude, and the earliest moment you could think that music clicked with you, you know. So it became something more at one point. And what was it?
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of kids, I responded to music no matter what it was. Didn't always have to be kids' music. I remember the Mike Douglas show. I'm 53, so I'm aging myself. But
hey, you look good for 53, bro.
Thank you. My dermatologist said the same thing recently, which she's probably just being nice. But yeah, I see Hunter just bemused. He's like, I've heard this guy talk about this for. I latched on to things like Sha Na Na, the Mike Douglas theme show when my mom was watching it on TV. It was just, and I'd run into the room and start air guitaring, or I had a plastic guitar. So I was definitely like energized by music in a way that nothing was doing it for me at the time, age 7 or 8. And then I found Kiss. You know, this is a very common thing for kids my age, was the Kiss Gateway. It's a band I still love. I mean, I have a lot of problems with them, with what they've done the last 20 years, but generally a big follower of that band. And they were the first band to really kind of show me how a band could world build. You know what I mean? Like how it wasn't just music. It wasn't just a tune, although that was great. The hooks were there. For me, Kiss showed me through Destroyer and through the Alive albums and through whatever, The Elder even, how world building could be a thing where you sat down with an album and you got deep into whatever world they were giving you. And you created also a parallel world for yourself, in terms of where your imagination took you. So they were a big band for me. And then, I grew up in the Midwest in Iowa, and we had a really cool FM radio station called WXLP, I think it was 97X. And they would play like on a Friday night, you could hear like Saxon, and you could hear Aerosmith, which doesn't sound weird now, but like in '82, they were playing stuff from Rock and a Hard Place. And I was hearing Judas Priest on the radio. I was hearing even some Iron Maiden on the radio. They were the first place I ever heard Queensryche. They would play something from the EP in '83. So they were pretty brave, and they had a pretty wide range of what they would play. But Friday, Saturday nights, it would get a little crazy. It wasn't like a metal show, but you could hear the hard rock or new wave of British heavy metal of the day, or the heavy metal. And that was a helpful gateway. And I suppose Priest and Maiden. And then, I remember going to see Kiss on the Creatures of the Night tour in early '83. And then again, the Lick It Up tour in early '84. And I would see these guys decked out in like denim with patches everywhere. This is really my first exposure to that as a 12, 13-year-old. And I was just like, whoa, what is that? I'd read all the patches on their jackets, and just somewhere there was a world happening that I didn't know about, beyond Priest, beyond Maiden. And so that was another gateway. And I think, one thing led to another. I picked up Kill 'Em All, and then that was it.
How old were you when you found that?
13 or 14.
Okay.
And, honestly, it was so new to my ears, like the palm muting, the scraping, the abrasiveness. I grew to love it, but at first I thought I hated it.
Yeah.
It was just so new to me, like even beyond Maiden, beyond Priest. I remember going to school and telling people, like, you're not going to believe it, but there's a band heavier than Maiden out there. Like, no way, really? Holy shit. And I've been a fan ever since. And Ride the Lightning was a massive moment for me. Still is probably a top 5 metal album for me. And, then just delving into the underground, finding Kerrang, finding Metal Forces in the Quad City record stores. There was a great chain called Co-op that had all that stuff. And man, I just dove in. And, the only money I made, which was paltry from jobs you had as a teenager, it all went into records.
Totally.
And once I found the underground and found just, all the varieties of metal that were out there that I was interested in, my comic book collecting and buying went completely out the door. And I haven't looked back since. It's, of course I have other interests beyond music, but that at the time you had to choose between, like, what can I afford? I can afford comics. Is music better? Hell yeah. So, so that just the floodgates were open. And, I could go on and on, because still at my age, I'm finding new fascinations in music, whether it's metal or otherwise.
Was there a point at that time where you at some point maybe felt like you wanted to play music as well?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Through that whole time, I was playing guitar. I was taking guitar lessons. I switched to bass in high school because my jazz band needed a bass player, and I was like, well, 2 strings less, how hard can it be? And I found out real quick that jazz bass was probably the most challenging thing I'd done up to that point.
Right.
And then I played in your, usual high school cover bands, and was in a band in Iowa City that played originals, and we were around for about 3 years, and played about 75 shows, and opened for like Smashing Pumpkins and No Means No. And so I was, I was part of that circuit and recording and everything. And I think I'm a pretty good bass player, but it just kind of so happened that, like, my passion led to being on other sides of it. When you get offered a job at Relapse, which I did in '94, you take it. I'm 24, 25 years old in Iowa. I'm like, time to get out, time to go work for Relapse, So at, that was really the point where I really put the bass down and just focused completely on that kind of, that direction.
So okay. So that when did you decide that you wanted to start writing? Oh
God.
Because that's actually where another thing that I should have mentioned with you is, because you're a different breed of guest for us. You're like the first guy outside of a musician. You are a musician, obviously. You just mentioned it, but with the writing, I should have asked, when did the writing thing get important for you? Because I was also a writer very early, got into poetry and stuff. Like, I want to know kind of the beginning of that.
Well, I was always an avid reader. Not just the comic books, but one thing that did stay with me was just reading books. Science fiction, fantasy, nonfiction, biography, classics, classic literature, whatever. So I was always really, really interested in words, kind of obsessively. So like all my friends are all people that know me. I'm a crazy proofreader. I'll proofread billboards, and get angry when I see things. But so I had always had the fascination there too. And I think I remember my mom getting a hold of an electric typewriter in early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. I'd never dealt with one before. I'd never had one before. I basically commandeered it, took it into my room, and just started writing lists and like writing little reviews. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know that could lead to something. I didn't know.
Give me an example of like an early review.
I remember doing Metallica reviews, Slayer reviews.
Oh, okay. So like actual albums. I thought you'd be like reviewing like, I really enjoyed my meal tonight.
It's like pre-Instagram reviews.
He's yelping his own mom through a typewriter.
Right. Yeah, I mean, no, because I had the music outlet, I was like, well, I'm just going to make lists. I remember, this is going to sound so absurd. I was like maybe 10 or 11. I made a alphabetized list of all the Kiss songs and what album they came on, all the data, you know what I mean? Obviously, pre-internet, but I just like seeing all that data in order the way you can see it now on Discogs or Wikipedia. But I was fascinated by this. I would also make my own playlists, of what I was listening to. I wasn't showing it to anybody. I did have friends that listened with me, but we weren't really sharing these things. I was like getting really nerdy and probably trying to kind of hide that because I didn't know if my friends were going to want to get that nerdy with me. But I would make playlists and write reviews. And then eventually I started writing. I think the first fanzine I wrote for was called Anti-Poser in Canada. And I did a review of the Milwaukee Metal Fest 2, which had nuclear, let me think, Fate's Warning, Sanctuary, Testament, Exodus, you name it.
Damn.
Nice. And then
did Kozik put that on?
Yeah, that was a Koshik thing. And that was when I am a massive critic of Koshik now because he drove that shit into the ground. And it got to be so ridiculous with 14 stages, and 2 of the stages would be in the same room and bands would be playing at the same time with a curtain between them, But this was back when Koshik would do the Milwaukee Metal Fest. It was one stage. I went to the first one in '87. It was like Death on the Scream Bloody Gore tour, Death Angel, Nuclear Assault, Trouble on the Run to the Light tour, so many more. It's escaping me, but yeah, he used to. And
that's enough.
Yeah, no, I know. One day, and basically, class. You knew you were seeing something special then. Now, with nostalgia, you're like, wow, that was history.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, I got off the topic there, but.
No, that's awesome. Good. We're all about.
Believe me, you'll see. We call that the weeds. We just say the weeds. Dude.
We call it in the woods, but
some natural thing that is hard to find yourself out once you're in.
I got a question. If we can keep going. So you said you started working at Relapse.
Yeah, in late '94. Yeah.
So what was Relapse up to at the time, and what did you get hired to do there?
I was hired as a publicist. At the time, they had grown so much between 91 and 94. I mean, I'm sure you guys know the history there and what they were doing. But that world was becoming large enough for them, and they were becoming successful enough with both the label and the mail order, that one guy was no longer enough to do radio, publicity, retail. So they started splitting those duties up into, just an individual doing them the way, of course, it's done now. And I was hired for publicity, which I had no experience in other than enthusiasm and knowledge. And I took it. And although I'm probably not the best fit for publicity, it was a fantastic learning experience. They had just done Tales from the Thousand Lakes by Amorphous. They were also part of Nuclear Blast America. So they were doing things like Dissection, Storm of the Light's Bane, Meshuggah's Destroy, Erase, Improve. I'm trying to think of some of the first albums I worked on, maybe the second Incantation, Mortician House by the Cemetery. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I was there when they signed Neurosis. We were kind of courting them. We would go see them and have meals with them and get to know those guys.
Wow, that's cool.
There was the Fire show, wasn't there, in Alphabet City?
Yeah, Tribes of New Rod. the side.
Oh,
mix.
okay.
Yeah, that's a long story, but I don't
right.
know if you want me to tell that. But,
is it true that there's a Tribes album and a Neurosis album that if you play them together, they like link up? It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz and Pink Floyd situation.
Right. I've heard that, but I don't know if that's.
I mean, really, and if you put any two things together, you're gonna find some coincidences that happen that make you think, "Oh shit, dude."
Yeah. I mean, if that exists, I don't.
Yeah,
nobody ever really confirmed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even remember where I heard that from. It just sparked that memory when you mentioned Tribes.
Yeah. Whoop, almost spilled my drink.
As an aside, I just saw an article from McSweeney's, which is a satire article, and it says it's Dave Gilmour from Pink Floyd. He's saying, "Hey guys, this music is coming along pretty great, but let's not forget we're trying to write a composition that goes along with the Wizard of Oz."
Yeah, you got to stick to your guns, you know. That's
exactly.
Yeah, that's funny.
But yeah, okay. Thanks for answering, man. That's awesome. I knew a bit about you starting to write at Metal Maniacs and then eventually Decibel. Maybe we can get to that now. Maybe how.
Sure. I mean, I was at Relapse for a little over 2 years, and then I got wind of there being an opening for the associate editor or co-editor there, and it's funny, and I went for it. I just was like that. I don't think I've ever believed that something was so up my alley than that ever in my life, in terms of like, okay, this is so me. I know I can actually turn this magazine around, because it was kind of at a low point. Like it was starting to put Marilyn Manson on the cover and Korn, which is great for other magazines, but Metal Maniacs readers were jumping off the boat really, really quick with a lot of those choices. And I just felt like, well, if I can go in there and work at a magazine that I used to pick off the newsstand in Iowa, I mean, what a dream come true. I mean, even more so than Relapse, which is a fantastic experience, but I just went for it. So I quickly became basically co-editor of Maniacs. Mike Greenblatt, or Mike G, the guy that hired me and was the other editor, pretty quickly saw that he called me the expert. Like, he wasn't really a lifer. He was just kind of a guy that worked at that publishing company who had a passion for music in general. I thankfully, and thanks to him, he put me in he gave me a lot of control early, and I helped spin it around, I think. And 5 of the best years of my life. I mean, it just, what a dream come true. It was a lot of hassle. There's a lot of deadlines, a lot of hard work, but man, I just, I honed my writing chops for sure. And I can still look back on that stuff now and be embarrassed about 80% of it, but you learn as you go. You know what I mean? Like, I think the Fates Warning book's like my best writing so far, but that's what you got. You kind of always think with a new project, right? I'm sure you guys have done it with your bands. It's like, you know, hopefully that new album is like, you know, you at the top of your game. You keep honing and you keep discovering. So yeah.
Right.
So Maniacs was great. And then like after I left, and I did leave of my own accord to move down to Virginia and live on a farm for 10 years. I just got sick of New York. I got sick of the publishing company's sort of inability to move with the times. But I had to keep my head in the game. So I did take jobs at like Decibel and Blabbermouth. I think I wrote some reviews for, and then, you know, worked from home for Century Media for a while, and then the End Records, and then back to Century Media.
The End Records, that was early record label for me that would feed me all the weird and avant-garde stuff that I definitely still love today. A lot of that stuff, like Unexpect was one.
Skolomance.
And Over Shadows of the Sun.
Sure.
Shit, there's tons, dude. Sholomancer, that's a cool band. Winds, Age of Silence. Maybe Age of Silence isn't on the end.
I think they're on the end. Mental Home from Russia. Or are they Russian?
And that's what I'm saying, like with this weird and obscure stuff, like I love these record labels that just totally just go all in on it. And the vast Relapse actually in a way is kind of that, because they accepted all forms of metal plus more, you know.
They did. What I like about Relapse in the end, and maybe the end lost it at the end. I'm just saying that as a kind of a fan with an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Those labels really had, and Relapse to this day has an identity. There are some labels I won't name that they used to have an identity, and then they just started realizing what makes money, and they kind of lost that really honed, focused identity. And Relapse have been able to do that while signing just so many diverse things that don't fall under one category.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I feel like they've kept their mission pure from day one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most definitely. I agree. So then after all the writing and stuff, and you said you were working from Century Media from home, doing what's kind of the same thing you were doing at Relapse?
No, not at all. I was actually a buyer for their distro because they had a large mail order.
Okay.
That was what was available at the time. And I was like, it was quite limited. I'm living in rural Virginia, wanting to stay in the business somehow. And that actually was kind of fun because I was like, oh, I get paid to buy records, basically. Obviously it was a lot more than that. And there were rules you had to follow and just businessy things you had to do. But it was a pretty cool little thing to fall into. And then I just kept writing on the side, and eventually, Mean Deviation happened, and I turned my focus back to writing.
Can you talk for a little bit about Mean Deviation to the audience here? I don't think many people of our listeners would know about that book, but I've read it, or at least a lot of the sections of it, and I found it to be just mind blowing to be like, oh, this guy, or there's already a book where Cynic is featured, or some of your favorite bands, the listeners of the show.
Oh, we got a frozen professor.
I'm frozen?
Yeah, but
you're good now. You're good
You
now.
said show
Okay.
and it froze, yeah.
I think I did get the gist of you, though. It was basically Ian Christie, who I think everybody knows from Sound of the Beast. And I don't know. I don't know if you guys know Ian Christie, but
I read his Sound of the Beast too, yeah.
There you go. He started Bazillion Points, and before he even started Bazillion Points, he had been after me to you got to write that progressive metal book, because he knew I was all into Cynic, Crimson Glory, Fate's War, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always just kind of like a joke, because well, that's great, you want me to write that, and I think I would be a good writer for that, but who's going to take it? Well, he started Bazillion Points, and as soon as I heard that he started Bazillion, I sent him an email. I was like, I know a writer who has a progressive metal book up his sleeve if you want to take it on. And he was like, well, of course, so that's how that started. It was basically just kind of a way to, it was kind of twofold. One, I just always was kind of the cheerleader for metal being far more diverse and sophisticated and just artistic than I think a lot of the mainstream might look at it as, right?
Right.
So I was always and I had a natural interest in these highfalutin progressive bands. So of course I wanted to feature it because of that, but I also wanted to kind of dispel the notion that Dream Theater and bands that sound like Dream Theater are the only things that are called progressive metal, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I went with a very strict dictionary definition of what progressive means, what it means to be progressive. And I also took some ideas from Frank Zappa without deviation from the norm. Progress is not possible. So that kind of fit into the title. The title was also mathematical. So yeah, that was kind of the mission, and I think I scored on that, because I've had a lot of people say, I'm so glad that you sort of weren't cheering just for Dream Theater and Symphony X, and you went to Psy, and you talked about K.O.Dot, and you talked about Canvas Solaris, and you talked about Cynic, and yeah, that was kind of the mission, and yeah.
I mean, reading that book, it made me realize that there was so much progressive metal I'd never checked out, never even heard of. It is such a diverse universe. It was very humbling to me, and it made me realize maybe I'm actually not as much of a prog head as I thought I was, because I mean, there's a lot of that stuff that I'm not super into, but it was to see my music scene represented as part of a greater thing was super cool.
Yeah.
My aspiration, as I'm sure it would have come up at some point on this pod, is we're the Cali Death podcast, so I wanted to write a book, still want to write a book on the California death metal scene, and this podcast is kind of the research for it. But I heard you and Hunter wanted to start your pod. You originally wanted to write a book, and then it decided to go with a podcast. And I feel the book kind of slipping away, as it's so much easier to just podcast once a week than.
Kind of.
Right.
I was starting to listen to my first podcasts and realizing that we could do what we wanted to do with the book with a podcast. I still want to write that with Hunter, though, because and the focus would be purely post black metal, Norwegian weird extreme music. I mean, because that's what Beyond Dawn, In the Woods, Arcturus, I mean, you name it, all of that stuff is a major passion of ours, and was the impetus not only for the book idea but Radical Research. And we just finished 6 episodes in a row on Norway with Radical Research, because I just thought at one point, yeah, we've done all these other Norwegian episodes through the life of this thing, but it's time to just kind of go all in for a while. We finally just pulled out of that, and
that's the stuff that I love, dude. I can never stop learning about Norwegian black metal, dude.
Right.
Or just even rehashing over everything, and I'm not at all a scholar in a sense, but I've cherry picked everything that I love from what happened there at that time, and realizing that it was a very big blip, and it should have been a blip, because the attitudes of those guys were trying to be so far outside of everything else that as soon as it gets duplicated, it's lost its worth. So everybody moved on and expanded, and then you get these bands like Ved Buenos Ende and Ulver and Dod Heimsgard, or however the fuck you say that name, and that's the stuff that makes me like really super excited about the seed that was planted there, and then how it blossomed.
Yeah, exactly the same for Hunter and I, for sure. Yeah.
Because there's so much creativity and expansion of creativity in all those records that came in the wake of it,
Absolutely. And it's funny, because if you I remember talking to Ivar from Enslaved for Mean Deviation, and he said, look, the original impetus for black metal, and we're not talking the post-progressive black metal stuff, we're talking just black metal. At that time, obviously the inspiration was Venom and Bathory, a few others. But he said, look, Mayhem was supposed to sound like Mayhem, and Enslaved was supposed to sound like Enslaved, and Emperor was supposed to sound like Emperor, and Darkthrone. We all wanted to have our own individual sounds. And what happened, and they did, they completely succeeded, legendarily. But what happened was everybody that got inspired by that stuff was like, oh, that's the formula. That's that's the track we're going to run on. And it was just like really kind of watered down the whole idea of originality. So I think partly subconsciously and partly probably quite consciously, some of these bands like Enslaved, Dodhamsgard's another great example, went completely bonkers with their creativity, went left field, went extreme with the progressive element, because they didn't want to get trapped in that sort of really narrow thing that black metal became.
Yeah, and also it's a challenge. Like, okay, duplicate this.
Right. Yeah. You don't have a whole lot of Arcturus wannabes out there, or Dodhamsgard wannabes. It's kind of like Hunter and I have talked about this, where you don't see a lot of tech metal bands at all, because you can't you don't see a Watchtower tribute album. Why is that? Because nobody can play that shit.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe you guys.
So I actually I wanted to know, actually, I mean, because you guys are so done your Radical Research. Just your opinion, because black metal is kind of it's definitely not really a genre I listen to a lot, but definitely I'm into some more like atmospheric black metal and stuff. But as far as you guys watching Lords of Chaos movie, like what was your guys' reaction to that? Because I just seeing you guys, I know you guys haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
God, that's
I refuse.
You guys are so black metal.
And what's so funny is I haven't seen it either, because
Jeff and I were we were burning churches when it came out.
Yeah,
and we just got caught up with that. So yeah.
What do you guys think about? What do you guys think about Until the Light Takes Us? What do you think about that documentary?
I'm a fan of that.
Yeah,
what about
I thought it was really well done.
What about Frost stabbing the couch at the end?
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah,
Dude.
can you imagine? Like, the kid on the airplane next to Frost. That is a worst case scenario.
Yeah, I gained new appreciation for Frost in the sense of like I never want to meet him. You know.
Yeah.
I love his I love his drumming, but no, I wanted to talk about Lords of Chaos just for a second. I read the book, of course, by Moynihan and Didier Soderlund or something.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. I thought they did. I thought they did a good job. I think the movie. I think it was interesting idea. I tried to read all the reviews. Well, not all of them, just to get a sense of what people were thinking of it, and it seemed to do better than I expected. But at the same time, I saw like 15 seconds of a clip once, like a trailer, and
it was tough.
I couldn't. I couldn't relate. It was just too slick in Hollywood, and I was just like, I'm sure that I'm just going to be like picking out all the wrong things, that happened, like that were fictionalized and probably not true to what actually happened, as far as I know. Kind of like how how Neil deGrasse Tyson pokes holes in like movies with his knowledge. I'm not saying I have that level of knowledge, but what I am saying is like I would probably not enjoy it. Because
it was. I would say it's a little better than you would expect, but still was like. I mean, I don't know. It was compared to the previews. I was like, I'm just gonna watch for the laugh factor because like seeing those previews, it looks so cheesy. Like these like angsty teenagers in their basement, and that's kind of how they made it look on the preview. But there's definitely more to the story on it. But it definitely seemed kind of like.
I mean, it probably really was just that.
I mean, the one thing that actually did turn me off about even black metal in general with that was like these guys were supposedly like the top tiered like influences for so many people, and then you find it starts out with like Euronymous and I can't think of people's names right now, but they were like their dads were like like super rich lawyers, and then they were just pissed off in their mansions, and they're like, I'm gonna make a dark project, and I was like, oh god, like that immediately turned me off, and I was like,
well, dude,
really?
just think
they're gonna be like in the gutter somewher, and like and like come out like fucking like with like actual pain or something.
What's brutal? Just think about how upset their dads are.
They got him.
I mean, they really got their dads, right?
It's also to me like many, many years too late. Like this is a story that we've heard ad infinitum so much.
Yeah.
And the problem is it loses focus on the music for me. Like I'm probably too much of a purist, but I don't care about the gossip. All that was interesting. I think you have to understand it to understand black metal, but you also have to know the music, and the music is by far the most important thing.
Yeah. I'm not thinking about these situations while I'm listening to their music.
No.
If the music didn't have some sort of enduring quality, none of the sensationalism would matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I had a quick question. So did the corpse paint imagery take you back to your Kiss days when you first saw it and kind of lure you in that way?
I mean, no, it's not probably. The reason I got interested in black metal was because of Bathory, who have been long one of my favorite bands, period. It doesn't matter what the genre is. They're one of my favorite metal bands, or solo project, whatever you want to call it. So that was my attraction, because of course all that stuff was really based on Bathory more than any other band. So that was interesting to me. Although if you do look at early pictures of Gene Simmons from like 74, 75, a lot of the black and whites, and he was so in character back then, that I can see black metal kids who were starting to adopt the corpse paint thing. Yeah, they were looking at Celtic Frost and some other bands in doing so, but I think that they must have been looking at some of those Gene Simmons images from the early days and going, wow, that's how you do it. I mean, because he really was, and he was the only guy in Kiss who I think has any correlation in terms of imagery to black metal.
Yeah, because everything else is like
a star and shit.
I can't even remember. Yeah, one star.
Peter Chris,
like,
nobody in black metal putting on like Cali.
even like, oh, come on, guys, like the pentagram. Nah, dude, you can't even do the pentagram, dude.
I'm a cat now.
Well, since you mentioned Lords of Chaos, the book, I had a prepared Oh my God, I had a question for you guys. Pre-prepared question about what are the essential books on metal that you guys would recommend reading?
Well,
Sound of the Beast is a really good, generalist book that covers a lot of ground. It covers, the traditional stuff, but Ian had a chapter on avant-garde metal where he talked about Master's Hammer, Brutal Truths, Need to Control,
Nice.
Naked City, that sort of thing. He got a really, really like sensitive. Not sensitive is probably the wrong word, but like a very like personal kind of chapter on black metal. Like you can tell like that Ian's relationship with that goes like well beyond what your average listener would. In fact, Ian was sort of a conduit for me getting into black metal. His enthusiasm for in the Nightside Eclipse, particularly, but also like the third and fourth Bathory records. So yeah, I think as far as an overview goes, Sound of the Beast is one of the best. I mean, I know I'm here with him, but Mean Deviation, I think, is really one of the most important books. Though it's certainly more specialized, but one of the most important metal books that I know.
What do you guys think about Choosing Death?
Yeah, I like it.
I like Choosing Death. Yeah, I actually have 2 copies of it. So yeah, I like it too. Yeah,
yeah.
So that's my recommendation right there.
How was the second one versus the first one? I'm just kidding.
I do have 2. I have 2 copies of Lord of the Chaos because didn't they? Yeah, it was like a reprint with.
I think they added some material, maybe
new shit.
Yeah. I've tended. I mean, this is a hard one for me to answer because I mean I have liked a lot of the Martin Popoff books. Some not so much, but then others I really like a lot. It's hard for me to answer though because I know a lot of these people and I don't want to leave anybody out. So I might just take the fifth because there are some books that I haven't liked, and there are some books I love, and like I said, I don't want to leave anybody out or shit on anybody because I'm just very familiar with most of these guys.
I think by and large, though, I mean there are very few essential metal books.
I've tended to read music books outside of metal. I think partly because I have interests outside of metal, but also because it keeps me a little fresher. I'm not always immersed, and I can kind of get outside of the bubble. Like Hunters turned me on to a guy named Simon Reynolds, who I don't have a whole lot in common with that guy at all musically, but I love his writing. And I think any good author should be able to take a book. It's the same way as a documentary. Like I hate Steely Dan, but I could watch that documentary because it's fascinating.
Yeah.
So that's what a good writer should do. I've read 2 Rolling Stone books, and I hate the Rolling Stones. I love the Beatles. I've read a ton of Beatles books.
You read that Rob Young book, didn't you? Electric Eden.
Yes, I love that.
Okay,
that's about the folk movement, for the folk rock or folk movement from the 60s and 70s in England. Our Band Could Be Your Life.
That's an amazing.
Is that Michael Lazarad?
That's right.
Lazarad?
Yeah, that's a fantastic book.
Yeah, that's
Our Band Could Be Your Life.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah,
that's the folk rock.
No.
Our
okay. Band Could Be Your Life is about essentially like Indian punk between like Black Flag and then when Nirvana broke, but it's all indie bands. It's like, and it's the chapters are profiles, so it's like Black Flag, Mission of Burma, Fugazi, Replacements,
Beat Happening, my favorite.
No. Let's not mention Beat Happening. The less mentioned, the better. But yeah, no, it's a fantastic book.
Metal books. I mean, I liked the trend that was happening there when Istin was compiling all their issues. Slayer Zine was compiling their issues. Sure. Those are great. Those are fascinating. I hope Bardo Methodology will do the same thing in the future. Is just put them all under one big, bounded book, and it's great stuff.
Cool. Killer. I'm gonna just ask the most blatant, self-interested question. What does it take to get a publishing deal to write a book on metal?
Well, I'm probably the wrong guy to ask. I mean, I know because I've been in the business, but it's a lot of hoops. It's a lot of it helps to have an agent. You have to have a nonfiction book proposal. It's a lot of stuff that you need to have in place, and a little bit of luck. Honestly, I wouldn't recommend it because although I did bazillion points and that was a contract deal and that was a true publishing contract and all that, and I didn't have to deal with distribution or anything like that. I just wrote the book and just kind of saw it through as much as I could. And I'm always going to want to be as much of a part of it as I can, but didn't have to do a lot of the heavy lifting. But what I did with Soul on Fire, I had approached a couple publishers, or they approached me, and I even talked to a couple prospective agents. And the kind of book that I knew that this was going to be, some of the content and some of the characters involved that I was going to have to talk to, it got pretty. It started. It was hard. It was hard. There were a lot of people wanting to stop this book from happening. There were a lot of warring factions within Peter's life, especially after his death. A lot of people taking sides. So it was rough, and I think people got scared away. So I just decided to do it myself. My Adrienne, who's now my wife, she was then my girlfriend. She decided to put up a little money and said, "Well, why can't we do this? I could do the business aspects and publicity, and you could do the writing and investigation." And she helped with some of the research, and we actually just were like, well, let's see if we can self-publish that. And at the time, I was kind of down on that because it didn't seem like it was real. It didn't seem like it was legit. Although the final product I stand behind to this day. I'm very happy with it, and it sold a lot. It did really well, and we did it. We did everything. We published it. We sent. I stuffed a bunch of envelopes, and I think that even though it's a lot more hard work, you get the reward, I guess, right? Because you're not paying anybody to distribute. You're not taking a really small percentage. It's on you to do the work. But then you reap the profit or whatever. And it's like, I didn't become a millionaire, but I made, a decent amount of money I think was worth doing. And I decided to do that for Fates Warning as well, because now I have the infrastructure to do it. So I'm not going to bother getting paid shit, getting a shit advance and getting shit royalties for a book like this, because it's a niche book. I mean, even as big as Typo is or was, it's still niche, and I'm going to fulfill that niche probably better than anybody in a publishing company, I feel, and I'll be able to do it because I have the experience from Soul on Fire's success and do it that way. So
when you write a book like that, like a band book, does a band take that book and sell it on their website? Is it like a
they can?
Okay.
Yeah, they can. I mean, Fates Warning will. Metal Blade's going to take some. Metal Blade have been really supportive, and that'll. And they were on board the whole way. So it's as much their product as mine, in a sense. I mean, I wasn't told by any of the band members to write anything in particular. This is my final product, but they certainly gave their time for interviews and just offering photos and offering tidbits of this and that. So yeah, I mean, they will support it as much as they can.
Forgive me if this is probing too much, but with the licensing, do you just license the imagery, or is there certain things that if you want to speak about them, you actually have to get a license for that as well?
What do you mean by imagery?
Like the logo and all that stuff? No?
There's none of that. In fact, there was none of that for Typo either.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I looked into the legalities of it. I did consult a lawyer a lot during Soul on Fire.
Yeah.
It was such a fucking nightmare. But yeah, everything I did was above board and legal, and same thing with Fates Warning. There are certain things like for instance, I couldn't claim. You can't do a Kiss book, or you can't do who else has a logo? Metallica. You can't do bands like that and use their logo. But I think when you're down on the kind of lower levels, where I'm at, it's cool.
Yeah. Oh, Gene Simmons would probably want all your profit. Probably.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. But there's nobody in Typo's world who are like willing. I mean, I did. There was a certain group of people who didn't want me to use the little Typo symbol. The circle and the Sub-Zero symbol in the book, and I used that as like these little kind of page breaks in the chapters, and
which is cool. A little touch.
Oh, absolutely. And that was my whole idea, was like that, I was adamant about it. I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And they tried to tell me that I couldn't. And I said, well, fight me, because this is a symbol that existed before Peter took it for Type O.
Right.
So you can get around that stuff.
With the Type O book, did you interact with Peter ever, or was it more kind of stories you've heard or people you've interviewed? Or
I interviewed him once, and I had some interaction with him, I think twice after that. Pretty brief, but also memorable, which is kind of the way it is with him. And then I had Monty Connor, when I first had the idea of the book. I went to him because I knew he knew, and I don't know if you guys know who Monty Connor is, but he was bigwig at Roadrunner Records during that whole period. And he was responsible for signing a bunch of the death metal that was on Roadrunner. He was responsible for harboring Type O and sort of, kind of their A&R guy all those years. So I went to him, and he gave me some advice, and he gave me a ton of contacts for his sisters, contacts for the band. And then I talked to just about everybody I could in and around Peter's circle. It was probably 55 to 60 interviews, I guess. I even went to New York to do some, talked to Monty there, talked to Mark Abramson there, who was from Roadrunner as well, sat down with all of his sisters in New Jersey, did a live interview, sat down with two different significant girlfriends of his from the 80s, and then went home and did all the rest of the interviews on the phone. So it was trying to get as close as I could to him. And then, of course, I took quotes from my interview that I did with him in 92, 93. And also, I drew from various different sources, magazines, whatever. All you have to do is, I had an endnotes section at the end saying, this quote comes from this source. As long as you cite the source, you can use it. So that's another legality I had to learn and figure out. But I got as close to the bone as I could with the story. Yeah.
All right, that's cool, dude.
Hell yeah.
I had somewhere I wanted to go, but if anybody else, Joseph, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, this is great. No, go ahead.
Kill it, dude. So, I kind of want to know how you and Hunter met.
Oh, Hunter can yeah. Hunter tell that.
Hunter. Is he here with us?
Is he there?
No, we lost. he's MIA at the moment, but
got disconnected for a second.
Disconnected.
Yeah. Bedtime for Hunter. All right. I guess I'll take it. When I left Metal Maniacs, my last issue, I put a little blurb in the magazine, like, "Hey, I'm leaving. This is my last issue. Anybody wants to get a hold of me, here's my email." That was kind of a mistake because I got way too many emails to deal with, but which is great. It's a nice problem to have. But Hunter was one of many people who contacted me, and he said, "Oh, hey, I have a band. Can I send you the demo?" And of course, I was like, "Oh, great. Another shitty demo. Go ahead." But he sent it, and I was blown away. And this was when they had vocals, and I heard a lot of great stuff going on, and I was really, really interested in them.
What was the name of that demo? Because actually, I want to recommend it to everybody because I've listened to it after Hunter came on, and it's a great demo, dude.
I don't think Canvas had names of their early demos. I mean, Hunter's back, so he can tell. They were asking us how we
back. Sorry.
No, it's all good, dude. So I asked how you guys had met, and so just to catch you up, it was right in the beginning of the story. He was it was the Metal Maniacs thing, and you gave away your email, and you were one of the people that hit him up with your demo. So take it from there.
I actually didn't. Nathan was the more.
Oh, Nathan did it. Sorry, you're right.
The more enterprising of the two.
That's right.
And Jeff and I just talked and found out that we had a lot in common, like bands like Last Crack and Mind Over 4.
No Means No.
Yeah, No Means No. Early Swans, Oblivion, Psychotic Waltz, whatever. And Nathan ended up sending Jeff or asking Jeff if he could send our demo. And Jeff said, "Well, you can. And the only thing that I can guarantee you is perfect honesty." And Nathan said, "Okay, well, I'll take the risk." And he sent it. And Jeff really liked it, and that just kind of kindled the relationship. And we Jeff and I and Nate met at the one and only Spiral Architect live show in America in November of 2001.
Oh shit!
And hung out at a really seedy motel in South Atlanta after that, and listened to Eternus and Enslaved and Paradise Lost Host while a guy at a tow truck was getting served by a hooker in one of the rooms. It was a great night.
Tell us a little bit about the Spiral set. How was that, dude?
Oh, it was great.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah, it was great. There were a couple of sound issues, but yeah, I mean they were so good.
Nice.
Not the friendliest guys in the world.
Really?
But that's I found a lot of Norwegians to be like that, though. I don't think it's just them. Norwegians tend to be very reserved at first, and although there are exceptions, Grutla from Enslaved being one of them, that guy's a goof. But yeah, I mean, like mostly they're reserved until you get to know them. I don't think they're as forthcoming as we're used to here in the States. So.
Yeah.
Like Erlin's an exception.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. It's just one of those. I mean, touring with I toured with was Insufferum from Finland, and there's bands like that where you tour with these bands and they're kind of standoffish and really quiet, and then because we're kind of more, and when you go to their countries and stuff, everyone's kind of like on their own path. They're not really like they're not talking out of they're basically just walking down the street. They're not trying to engage with anyone. They're kind of doing their own thing. That's kind of the culture in which they live, and like. At first, you're like, oh, this guy's like kind of weird and being kind of like standoffish and rude and short with me and then walking away all weird and shit. And then like you get a little vodka and they're your fucking best friends. They're like there was times where I like with Insufferum, like I was like, oh, I mean, I'm not a huge fan, but I like a few songs by them and I was really stoked to tour with them. And it became a thing where like they're all like in their full like their makeup thing with the Finland flag on and all the things, and they're all like serious and shit, and we're just like having fun, like cheersing and having a good time. And then by the end of the show, they like once they're in the mode, they get the show done, and they're out hanging out, and they're like hitting the bottle and the vodka or whatever. They were like arm around you, fucking awesome, man. And then the next morning back to hello. It was just kind of like it was a culture shock for me because at first I was you take it personally at first. You're like, what the? I'm being super nice to him, and he's not reciprocating in the way that I want.
You and I are used to wearing our farts on our sleeve, dude.
Exactly.
And I'm the guy. As soon as you meet me, I'm the same guy as when I leave. It's just, and if it doesn't work, I'm sorry. It's
I mean, that's just kind of how they're down to have that like awkward, like silence. And when they're not partying, they're just like. Work. We're doing the work. We're getting it done, and then they just come out of their shell sometimes, and you're like, "Oh fuck, you're." I mean, and Decapitated had a couple guys like that too. The bass player filling in for Decapitated was like, I was like 6 shows. He's like, man, thank you. It's like, and like we're on tour together, and I'm like, oh okay, well, you're one of my favorite bands, cool, tight. But
I am still respectful of that as well too. As people,
no, I understood it after a while, but at the beginning, you don't understand. In the beginning,
they burst out of the shell and you're like, all right, dude, let's fucking roll, dude. Let's go have some fun. And I'm not like, I'm just like, okay, dude, I've been waiting for it. Let's do it. I'm not like, oh, dude, you took too long to break out of your shell, dude. I don't want to hang out with you anymore. No, it's just like, all right, dude, you caught up. Let's do this. Boom.
Well, sometimes it takes like a week on tour before they speak to you, and you're kind of like, well, kind of fuck this guy. I don't. and then they start coming out of their shell, and you're like, oh, fuck yeah, it's like my cat, like you've earned it. Like if the cat's an asshole to you all the time, and then finally that cat jumps in your lap one day, and you're like, fuck yeah, this cat's the shit. It's like it's funny. Like most of the cat's like hiding from everyone, but once it's like, all right, you're cool, I'll jump in your lap, dude. Then you're like, this cat's the shit. Like this, not one of those like cats that wants like slut love from everyone.
Slut love.
And it's all coming around. It's like cruising around.
It's saying a slut. It's saying a slut for slut.
He's
love,
turned into one. No, he used to be the one that would hide. He would hide from everyone, and then you had to like hang out as a friend for 6 months, and then maybe he'd come out and.
What crazy psychology though? It's like when the cat doesn't like it runs away, you're like, oh, kitty, and then when it comes up to you, you're like, go away. You know,
You're so right.
Yeah, that's after a while. That takes a while before you want it to go away.
But coming back to Spiral Architect, that reminded me.
That's a good segue. I love the segue.
Those guys are sick.
Spiral back to Spiral Architect.
Yeah, let's spiral right back around.
That was one of the episodes you guys did on your podcast, and
they can play instruments.
They can play instruments. It's true.
Yeah, they do.
But that's like a band that I kind of forgot about or hadn't listened to, and then when I was like diving into Radical Research and checking out all the episodes you guys had done, it was one of those episodes that I was like really stoked on. I'm not gonna lie, there are only maybe like 7 or 8 of your episodes that are like on bands I already know, but it was one of the ones that reignited my interest in it. And I was driving from LA to San Francisco and I listened to that episode amongst many others, and I got super into that again. And I just want you to know that that's the effect that your podcast has. It reignited my interest in Spiral Architect. I remember Alchemist being another band that I used to love, and then you guys got me back into them.
Yeah,
and I'm sure that's what you guys are aiming for. And I want you to know, as a listener, it's working. I'm like reigniting all these bands that I just haven't listened to because there's like no one I've ever talked to about these bands before in my life, and I was just a teenager on the internet getting into metal. And
that's huge for us. That's always the best. And like when we started, we weren't sure if anybody would really grasp, Disharmonic Orchestra or Panthymonium or any of these bands we wanted to talk about, Pyogenesis, whatever. And
no one did grasp that.
Well, nobody. We did find we were on our own island with that band, but surprisingly and very beautifully, like so many people from so many different countries. I mean, Estonia and down in South America, and the reach has been pretty far in terms of like people that go, hell yeah, I didn't know anybody else was into that stuff still, and I mean that's the whole point. But we weren't really sure if we were going to find anybody, but we found a bunch of people who dig this stuff. And we're not trying to be obscure for its own sake. There's nothing we're going to pull out just because, we haven't done it and it's really obscure. We have to love it. We have to think that it like had value then and has value now. When we still listen to this stuff, as if it's brand new to us. I mean, we still get a charge out of it as if it's really new. So we really have been pleased with, like you say, you rediscovered Alchemist or rediscovered Spiral Architect. It's surprising how many people will get a hold of it after an episode and say the same thing. And then just purely
I have a version of that I texted Hunter. I can't remember what band it was, but if you go back, Hunter, if we go back in our text, there is a text that I sent. I was like, dude, you made me dust off this album, and I thank you so much for that.
Awesome.
It's exactly what the professor's talking about right now, dude. And that's wild. I'm just hearing him say that, and I'm like, whoa, dude. There's this common thing that's happening while listening to this show. So please, anybody who's listening to this show, go out there and download some Radical Research episodes, because even if it's something that you haven't heard of, they're gonna make you at least interested to go out and check out what they're talking about. Because
one compliment, the same thing that what Anthony kind of piggybacking what Anthony's saying, just even like bands that I've never heard of or something, like your guys' back and forth is like, it's good to listen to. It's like really like I was driving around today listening to it, and it's just fun to listen to. I was like, had no idea.
If you listen to this show,
sometimes
you definitely don't get too many smart people talking much. So,
well, I mean, but that's the other thing. We've had people go, God, I really like to hear people talk about music like this the way I do inside my head or with my friends, and I didn't know that you guys were out there. I was like, well, great, because if Hunter and I are out there talking about it this way, then certainly more people will be out there as well. We can't possibly be the only ones. And at Hunter and I've just always had a great rapport. Like that's obviously why we're really close friends, is it goes beyond just the music, and just I think we just have a good thing, but we have good chemistry. But yeah, man, I'm glad it's fun to listen to. I if there's one thing I wish I had more time to just do and make this make the podcast better, it's just the technical aspect. I wish I had super pro sound. I wish I had I don't know. I wish I could spend more time writing a script for an episode in terms of just because sometimes we'll just fly by the seat of our pants because we know this stuff so well. But I just don't have. I don't know. Just it's a time thing,
I just have to clarify something real quick. When I was what I said earlier, I was talking about the hosts only. I wasn't talking about any guests. All of our guests, I didn't say anything about them not being smart. I'm saying mainly me, but I wanted to take the resident homies down with me if I was going to call myself out.
I will say though that you guys are probably the most like well-spoken, intelligent guests we've had.
You have no idea how fucking dumb I am. No idea.
I mean, dude, you have no idea how dumb I am. I'm drinking White Claws right now. Like, what the
fuck? For me, like one of the most satisfying outgrowths of radical research has been this sort of podcast, the playlist world.
Oh my God!
Yeah. We have started posting our playlists every couple of weeks.
It's about weekly by now, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on Facebook, and it's led to our listeners developing relationships with each other, and having conversations about this music completely outside of radical research.
Yeah,
that's awesome,
and that's really satisfying to see.
Yeah. Like one guy will get like 12 likes, in the first hour of us posting the lists, and that just doesn't that kind of interaction doesn't happen that often, at least that I can see on that platform these days. And so I'm just we've got like this little community who
that's awesome, dude.
The listeners know each other. It's not about us anymore. It's not about the music as that we're featuring on whatever episode it is. It's become, like Hunter said, just about, oh my God, you're into that. Well, or just sharing stories about getting into stuff or whatever.
Well, the podcast is based on the love of having conversations about ideas and subjects that you two love. So it's like, it's just expanding. You're just finding more people that want to be in on the conversation. And now there's this community that has started their own conversation within this little radical research bubble.
That's really satisfying.
And we're just really encouraged to see people who have tastes that are as diverse and strange as ours. I've been surprised to see some of the weird prog rock from the 70s that's on some people's lists that I thought only Hunter and I really knew. There's one guy that's always like cheering when we throw on some Italian prog rock album that happened to be in our listening that week. It's just, wow, those people are out there. We thought we were the only ones. So it's cool.
Hell yeah!
I had a list one time, and it was like Il Balletto di Bronzo, and then a Gangstar record. And the guy was listening to like Musea Rosenbach and the same Gangstar record that week.
Isn't that crazy?
That's why Hunter and I vibe so well. Is that we take pride in if we were to build a playlist that were to represent us, we pick throughout several different genres of music, and hip hop is definitely going to be on that playlist.
Okay,
yeah.
Anthony, I think that the album,
what about you, Jeff?
Believer Dimensions.
Oh yeah, Believer. Yep. That shit.
I went back through the text.
Totally, dude. And that was something that you guys made me dust off, and again, I was reassured of my connection with that album. And that's the whole point of being a collector for me, is I purposefully shelve albums that I have such connection with, because I don't want to lose the connection with it. So I want to have the experience with it, and as soon as I feel like I've had my fill, I put it right back on the shelf and leave it for a while before I naturally want to pull it back off the shelf again. And I usually do. I usually do this cycle thing where I'm going back through these phases and waves that I listen to music, and it also has to do with when I'm writing music. So right now I'm not listening to really any death metal at all, because I want to stay away from it if I'm thinking about writing death metal. So it's all hip hop and weird ambient experimental shit right now.
For me, there's nothing more magical than rediscovering an album that you know, and then finding something new in it. And I think
sure.
that the kind of music that we're all into, it all has the potential for that kind of rediscovery.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Most definitely. I mean, and also too, having your own metal podcast where you guys are not even metal, prog rock, all the genres you guys get into. One thing that we kind of never talk about, but actually is listening to your guys' podcast is hilarious because it made me think for a while. I was driving today. I've mentioned it multiple times, but I was driving a car.
You drove? Amazing. Wow.
Yeah, made a fucking. I put my blinker on.
Man,
fucking.
you guys are into driving? I love driving.
Yeah, there's a little traffic. But
go on.
I like the part where you guys.
I like where this is going.
Well, no, as avant-garde, whatever, just deep music people. You guys will be like, someone will throw something out there and you're like, well, that sucks. That album sucks. There's kind of a beauty in that a little bit because, it's because your opinions are so diverse and deep and shit.
Well, that goes back to Jeff's response to Nathan.
Oh, fuck yeah, listen to Wagner.
Oh, what up, 7Gs?
Yeah, I'm saving questions, by the way, guys. I'm just because these guys are fucking smart as shit. So I'm trying. I don't want to interrupt them.
Sorry.
But yeah, no,
fuck the fans, dude. It's not.
I forgot what I was saying.
That's a
That
good
one
question.
was too funny. It was too funny. Sorry.
But no, it's definitely the camaraderie. I mean, that's like metalheads. Metalheads are like that. They're like, they put their lines in the sand. They're like, this band I'm not into, and I'm going to tell you about it. And this band I'm really into it because of these certain aspects and stuff. But it never really gets talked about. I don't want to make it sound like it's an elitist thing because I do the same fucking thing where I'm just like, no, I want to be like, no, I didn't like that one. Or someone's like, I love that album. Like, not into it.
If I catch what you're saying, we're so passionate and in love with so many things musically that it's going to swing the other way for stuff we don't like. I don't think we're afraid to shit on an album if we think it sucks.
Well, I was going to take it back to your email situation where you said, yeah, I'll listen to it, but you're going to get only perfect honesty,
which, yeah.
And that's really, I mean, as a reviewer, that's exactly what you would want to do. You're not gonna gear your view to people and want to find a certain audience of your reviews and want to push it towards them. You want to really just represent yourself as a reviewer.
You don't want to read a review site that gives only 4.5 and 5 stars. You don't want to you know what I mean? Like you want. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, the label gave this to you, and you're going like, oh yeah, 4.8 stars because it's nothing below 3 is the worst that they do. It's like you want someone to give you their honest opinion about something. You know what I mean? That's what I like about it.
Yeah, I also think it's not so much about being jaded. I think I've been immersed in this for so long that I could be jaded. I don't think I am, but I think what I am is hyper picky because the bar is now so high because I've listened to so much different stuff and had so much access to all of it for so long that you can't help but you keep that bar way up here and get a little pickier because it's hard. It would be hard to find great things to say about every single piece of music that comes your way.
Totally.
And that got almost, I became almost apathetic when things like YouTube and Spotify came out in terms of just being able to access everything. Mm-hmm. Suddenly it had almost no meaning. And there was a time for a couple of years, I reverted completely into just stuff that I already have.
I did the same thing, dude.
But I'm always keeping up with what's going on out there. It's just, at least in metal, I'm impressed by less and less every year. But I just think that's because of the age of the genre, and again, that bar being so high. Like, how are you going to top this, or how are you going to top that? It's there's a lot of bands out there that are competent and playing it really well and technically very good, but where's the character? I'm just not hearing it. So again, I just think it's a function of me knowing too much. You know, if I was a 17-year-old kid, I think some of these new bands would sound fucking fantastic. You know, but I'm just not there. And I don't think it's a thing of being jaded. I just think it's more exposure.
I'm gonna make a vulgar comparison here, but it is something that is just I'm being reminded of while you're saying that, which is like pornography and the dudes that get super addicted to pornography, they got to keep going deeper and deeper and deeper into porn, and they're they're getting so extreme with it that they're still it's all about boredom. So it's like, is that how we look at death metal and the rabbit holes that we beat it out in?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I remember back, what was it, late '90s, early 2000s. You would get guys who were listening to things that were only on United Guttural and I don't know, Deathgasm.
Yep.
Nothing against those labels, but it was like this was their entire musical meal every day, all the time. And I thought, that's great. I fucking love death metal too, but doesn't it become the norm? Like, it's kind of what you're saying about pornography. It becomes, once you just, this is the norm for you. This is the daily thing. Like, how does you have to throw it against something that's completely different to understand why it's so extreme, right? If you're listening to extreme all the time, it would seem to not feel extreme anymore after a time. I mean, that's just me, maybe.
No, it's human, dude. I think that really is what it is, dude. That we constantly push the ceiling, and then you get to a certain point where the ceiling can't be pushed anymore, so then it spreads out, and then it's all spread thin at that point.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, definitely.
I wanted to go back just to this kind of interesting point about the role of a music critic and the value of a critic when they only give positive reviews. It's like something about, you know, it's untrustworthy. I wrote a review for a band who I'm now playing in later this year. And it raised this interesting question, which is like, am I actually able to review bands and become like a music critic if I'm a part of the very scene? Because obviously I don't want to like say anything negative about the homies and anything, but I don't want to just promote like, yeah, you know, you can see in like my brother and I've had this conversation. He's also a musician, and he's like, yeah, musicians have to be nice to everybody and critics have to be mean to everybody, and it's hard to be both.
Yeah.
And I think I did it pretty nuanced with that one review, and that's literally the only one I have to my name yet. If I want to get back into it, I was thinking how troubling that would be, since I want to also be a musician and be active in the scene. Yet I feel like musicians themselves are maybe in some of the best positions to be critics of other music. So it's like an interesting voice to have.
I agree with you. I've heard that whole argument of like, if you give a negative review, the band will come back at you and be like, oh, well, I don't see you out here doing this and playing music and all that. It's like, well, you know, I don't have to be a master painter to know if a Van Gogh is good or if it's shit. I don't have to be a master pizza baker to know if this pizza's fantastic or shit. If I have enough experience with this stuff, pretty soon I'll be able to understand why something is bad or good, right? So as a musician, you would avoid that completely, right? You're like, but then it brings on a new set of potential problems, I guess. Being a musician and having peers that you may be critiquing.
Yeah. And I remember figuring out a nuanced way to do it for me was critiquing the older catalog of the band that I was reviewing the newer material of. And that was a way to balance some positive and negativity within one review. And they said that was fair, and you brought up good points, and we agree with you on that. And it was like, okay, that's a way to do it. So I'm like thinking ahead, like there, you have to be sort of polite about your critiquing, but I think that makes the positive things you say come off even stronger. I think there's a good lesson in that. Yeah, that's all, I guess. One other thing was, I remember, I don't know too much about the history of like music criticism. My brother was saying Rolling Stone back in the day, and these critics were well known, well respected. They were all assholes, and I just don't know anyone like that anymore. Like I think that maybe I don't know enough to even make any kind of substantial point here, but I think there's something that's been lost in the world of music criticism
No
today.
question.
Yeah.
No, I think the entire notion of like the dedicated music critic is more or less over. Like you had like the British weeklies back in the day, even like Village Voice. Greg Tate wrote for Village Voice every week, and wrote essential music journalism like every week. You think about guys like Lester Bangs that wrote for Cream. I mean, those guys don't really exist anymore.
Do you think it, Hunter? Do you think it's because anybody can write a review nowadays and have some level of authority, and it's just become so watered down that there is no authority anymore?
Yeah, I mean, the infrastructural changes, I think led to all that. I mean, everyone's always had a voice, but now everyone has access to express that voice. It's like anybody can have a SoundCloud page, and all of a sudden they're a musician.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But maybe you shouldn't be making music.
I think you have to work less to be heard.
Yeah.
Whereas Lester Bangs would have gone through the ropes and done his job in the trenches to be heard. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, hopefully, it's the onus is on the reader to then identify somebody who's just full of shit and has no experience versus, oh yeah, this guy seems to be talking with some degree of cred and some degree of experience. So, hopefully that still exists out there somewhere.
Well, I mean, I think it does at The Wire.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good example. They're a bit snobby, but
Well, and, I mean, yeah, they are, but I mean, in some ways, that's like a reaction to the, overly democratic approach of the internet, and and what that allows.
True.
Yeah.
I just said that the anchor chain, so it didn't get that response. So.
Well, it is. I mean, it is. But I kind of appreciate that. I
Sure.
think they earn the right to be.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, just one other point is when I was doing like a kind of literature review of death metal books, there's one, I think it's a dissertation called like Death Metal and the Limits of Music Criticism. And I just started reading it again. And one of the main points it starts with is that the history of music criticism is that it's been tied closely to like politics and social criticism, more generally cultural studies. And it grips on better. It gets a better grasp onto things like punk music or, indie or rock or anything that is a little more socially conscious or part of some sort of larger culture and trying to make a statement that, can maybe affect a change in the world. And metal seems to be its own weird fantasy world in a lot of ways. And the point that the book makes is that it's at the limits of music criticism. It's like impossible for music critics to use their usual toolbox to analyze this stuff when they're used to thinking about what it means for culture.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think there's a special kind of familiarity you need with metal to be able, especially death metal or like technical death metal, to be able to really understand what these kids are going for in making music, because it's not the same thing as the punk rockers of the 70s and 80s. It's a different kind of statement. So that's just a little more. I've been thinking about this stuff right now. Yeah.
No, for years metal was dismissed by critics. But I think it had more to do with the limitations of the critics themselves in grappling with something that is so abstract. I mean, there certainly has always been a fantasy element to metal, but it's more than that. It's one thing to listen to Bob Dylan and talk about his lyrics or the session musicians on it. It's a whole other thing to listen to a Spawn of Possession record and really really dissect it.
Yeah.
Because like where do you start?
Very good question.
I've also been wary for a long time about these books or these critiques where they try to bring in these socio-political, economic aspects of what's happening at the time during this certain musical movement. Like that's all great. That's all great, and I think that it has some legitimacy. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but I also think it misses the point. I think it misses the point of the escape, of the imagination, of the art, of the fact, in my opinion, that music is the absolute greatest thing that humankind has ever done.
Mm-hmm.
It makes up for a lot of our foibles and bullshit that we've perpetrated. But the point is, I pretty much ignore all of that stuff simply because I want to keep the music pure and part of the imagination, part of the internal process of listening, and no talk about what's happening in society or politics is going to help my relationship with the music I listen to. Again, that's an individual thing. I'm sure some other people get off on that. I don't enjoy it, and I just avoid it completely. So
I think one of the things that you and I, one of the many things where we find common ground, is the thing that we love most in music writing is writing that is about the music. And so, I mean, you mentioned Martin Popoff earlier. I have plenty of issues with Popoff, but his enthusiasm for the music always comes through.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it triumphs everything else. And that's what I want to read. Music is, talking about music is enough. It doesn't need to be justified. It doesn't need to be propped up with theory. I really like one of the things that really, really grinds my gears is people outside of metal that want to like metal but are somehow ashamed of it. And so I heard somebody was talking about Mayhem's Ordo Ad Chao.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy clearly loved. He was like, "Yeah, it's like if Varese was played on guitars." It's like, no, it's a fucking metal album, and it doesn't need to be anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an expression of the artist themselves. So it's like it's all subjective in reality. Like it,
and I think people have a hard time grappling with that. It's like they want to somehow find some sort of objective baseline in it, and it's not. It is truly the expression of the artist.
It's funny you mentioned Popoff too, because I remember seeing something of his on Facebook maybe about 6 months or 8 months ago. He was writing, or maybe had just put out a book on Ted Nugent, and I gather that much like all of other Popoff's books, it was just all about the music and nothing else, because there's a lot you can talk about with Ted. And there were people in this thread like trying to goad Popoff into commenting on Ted's politics and all that bullshit that he's about, and he wouldn't bite. Like, he just would refuse. And in fact, some of his responses were like, boy, I sure dig the riff in some, I don't know, some
Cat Scratch Fever.
album. No, like some obscure song to show that like he knew the deep tracks, and this is what it's about. It's about the music. And I was really impressed with him for that, because he was keeping it real. He was keeping it about the music. I don't think Popoff has a lot in common with Ted politically, but he likes his music. So I think I think he was trying to do let's separate the art from the artist. You got to do that, especially listening to metal. I mean,
oh yeah.
If I got rid of like any record, here we go on the soapbox again. But if I got rid of any record that was by a person who did something unsavory at some point in their life, I would have 90% of this shit.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, we've had to learn to separate.
We're talking about Norwegian black metal.
I was going to say, black metal is completely out the door at that
point. All the stuff that we cherish so much.
We steer clear of those seas,
I actually can we get back to you two, and because really I feel like we only left it at that email. Like, I want to see how your relationship grew and developed, how you guys stayed in touch, how that moved forward into actually deciding to get a podcast going.
Yeah, we've never lived in the same city. We've always been kind of long distance friends.
So that email happens, you get the Canvas demo, and then so you followed Canvas through their years. I came across it, the first demo, their first release was for the masses was how I came across it.
Okay.
I found it in a magazine. Can't remember which one, but there was a little because what were you guys on? Tribunal? Yeah.
First, yeah.
Tribunal Records did a little cutout.
Animosity, right?
Yeah. That's a deep cut. That's crazy, right? Canvas and Animosity on the same.
Yeah, no idea.
At one point, dude. Like, fuck. So yeah, I see that in like a half page buyout on some.
Yeah, it's probably like a quarter page, knowing that.
But think about it. If it was only a quarter page, they banked that space on Canvas, you know. So I heard about Canvas, and I probably already said it on the Hunter episode last, but all the bands that were cited as recommendations, because that's usually how things were happening back then, dude. If you're a fan of these bands, check out this band, you know. And it was Cynic and Death and all this like shit that I was loving. So I was like, oh yeah, dude, Canvas, Solaris, let's check this shit out, dude. And I got that first EP with the Spatial EP and loved it, dude. And then I bought everything else after that immediately. Everything that was available and anything that came out since then.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, so enough of me sucking Hunter's dick for a second.
Well, let me just say,
let's not start sucking each other's dicks quite yet.
I wasn't on the last episode with Hunter, so I wanted to just also throw my hat in. I'm a huge Canvas Solaris fan as well.
They're such a fucking good band.
Atomized Dream, dude. Oh my god.
I said
me too, bro. Me too, bro. Come on.
Anybody listening to this right now, if you have not listened to the Canvas Solaris, go check it out, or Solaris, however.
We're all just like piling on.
Wait, you actually
right now. Like,
Solaris was
Feel the love. Yeah.
we're just man piling Hunter right now, just like
he's a killer drummer. I love him so much. All right. But yeah, so okay, the relationship builds from this email. That's what I'm saying. So you guys just back and forth in email.
Yeah,
emails and like occasional,
like we would talk on the phone.
Yeah, occasional visits. You would come down to Virginia. I'd come down to Georgia.
Well, and then I moved to North Carolina for school, and we were about an hour apart at that point. And that's when we started spending more time together, hanging out and listening and stuff. And
yeah, and it's just been that ever since. Just the visits and the communication, constant communication, and really, I think I said it in the first episode of Radical Research, where it just grew out of phone conversations where we'd be like, we'll start with like, hey, let's talk. We're talking about this music, and this is on our mind, and then we go to this thing, and we go to this thing. And really, there's just really not a whole lot of difference between those calls and Radical Research. It's just
such a good feeling when you're just like, hey, dude, check this out. Oh, I love it. Or either they didn't know, they knew it or already and they loved it, or they fall in love with it. And then you're just like, oh, dude, we're just like dancing with music. Like,
and again, I think the bond, I mean, all of my best friends are people I met through music and people I have music in common with. But Hunter and I had this uncanny, we mentioned it before, but it has to be said again, this uncanny parallels, many uncanny parallels with what we liked. That it wasn't just, it was outside of metal too, as well as inside of metal. And it just, I just think that we understood each other completely.
Yeah.
Musically.
We have, same sense of humor, like the same, comedy shows. Both really into food,
Nice.
So hold on, we're about 1 hour 33 minutes in. I think all you've been trying to do is talk about I think you should leave. I think that's exactly what you mentioned comedy, and now we're
I love that show, dude. I fucking love that show.
That is maybe the best comedy I've
seen.
See,
I'm a Tim and Eric guy.
I love Tim and Eric. Yeah,
that's that's my comedy duo, and John C. Reilly involved in that with his Steve Brule, dude. I love all that stuff.
Dr. Brule. Yeah.
See Brule,
but like, I think you should leave is a continuation of that abstract dark.
But it's also its own thing. They're not ripping off Tim and Eric. It's
exactly.
I turned Hunter onto it. I guess it was just a couple months ago when I was down there last, and yeah, it's just consumed our life ever since.
A lot
Highly
of
recommended.
he's
Highly
an
recommended.
SNL he's an SNL writer.
Tim,
So
Tim
a lot of,
Robinson was an SNL writer. Then he and Sam Richardson did Detroiters, which is also highly recommended. And then after Detroiters, they did I Think You Should Leave.
yeah, dude, and I think that like currently the writer is starting to come out and be in the spotlight a lot.
Yeah,
more.
I think that's a good thing.
You know,
Yeah.
John Mulaney. John Mulaney was a writer.
John Mulaney.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think
great
he's
example. Great
he's
example.
Now,
dude.
he's now selling out, big places as a stand-up because he's fucking great.
So if you're let's tie that back into podcast real quick, and I've mentioned it on the show a few times, but Comedy Bang Bang. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of it. I don't know.
Okay, so it was a show on IFC, but it was a podcast before that, and it's still a podcast today. And Scott Aukerman, who is actually one of the executive producers on another weird show, Auntie Donna's Big Old House of Fun. You ever watch that one?
I do not know.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but
Sounds awesome.
Auntie Donna's Big Old House of Fun, which is
Right.
literally today's straight up turned up to 11 crazy fucking twisted Pee Wee Herman Funhouse.
Oh wow.
dude.
Wow.
Okay.
And it is these three dudes from Australia. I don't know any of their names off the top of my dome, but they are all improv geniuses. Improv comedy is like my favorite shit now. And it's been for several years, but like right now I'm starting to go deep into it again. And these Australian dudes fucking know what's up with the weird fucking twisted Tim and Eric weird, like out there fucking almost anti-comedy, dark comedy, abstract comedy. Like dude,
used to watch that Evening at the Improv show, right? I mean, that was classic.
Which
yeah.
one?
The 90s, just those guys were great, dude. The Evening at the Improv, always. I loved watching that. Always remember that shit.
Well, yeah. If you go back, it's like Kids in the Hall too, and
Kids in the Hall is like my favorite show.
Yeah, Kids in the Hall.
Upright Citizens Brigade.
Upright
Oh
Citizens
hell
Brigade.
yeah, dude! Fuck yeah,
yeah.
Dude, this is like that. That was that '90s version of this, but like now it's like everything's turned up to 11, dude. I keep using that Spinal Tap reference, dude. Everything is turned up to 11, but sometimes it's not a bad thing when things are turned up to 11 and you can just have
I think Spinal Tap's the best movie ever made, pretty much.
I think when you wield the weirdness the way that Tim Robinson and Zach Cannon do, and I Think You Should Leave, I mean, it's great. Weirdness for weirdness' sake doesn't work in music, comedy, or anything else. It's gotta be that step above and gotta be great, and they are. It just that show and what's happening in comedy right now, I think is pretty fertile, and that's another passion of ours, I suppose. Maybe we'll do children's hospitals. Anybody watch that?
Oh fuck yeah, dude! See, this is why I'm saying Comedy Bang Bang would be your shit, dude, because all of your favorite people are on that show, dude.
Okay.
This is like
that's awesome.
It is the culmination of all the best like improv people and writers that just come on the show, and there's characters and literally characters that have developed into shows came out of this. They were doing the podcast back in like 2010 all the way up until now, almost 800 episodes, and literally all the who's who for comedians, dude, has been on this show, and whether they get involved in the improv aspect of it, sometimes it'll be just like, okay, we're gonna have this actual comedian just be themselves, we're gonna have them as a co-host, and then there'll be two other comedians that just come on as characters, and it's all no plans, no nothing, dude. Whatever happens, and it is way more times than not gut holding laughter. And how things are born on the show, and then you keep listening and you see how these characters develop for some of these people, dude, and then it ends up turning into a show that you probably, some people already have been watching for years, and it was born on this podcast. It's like, fuck, dude. These are all the pros, the serious pros, dude.
Sorry that I forced a turn into comedy, but I had to.
Oh no, I love
dude,
it. I love it.
Don't apologize.
Anthony's actually been pretty like dialed in with, because like I've been into podcasts and stuff for a long time, like since 2009, 2008, like touring, like downloading them on my iPod, and just for like long hauls and stuff like that. And one day he was like, because we were trying to like one up each other with like, what's the next cool podcast? And this one just came out. It's called, obviously you guys know it now. But it's Kill Tony. It was like it was brand new though. It was brand new, and I was like, I'm not listening to it, dude. Fuck that.
I just kept listening to it, and I'm like, hey, dude, check it out.
And then I started watching it like every Monday or Tuesday that it came out, and I don't listen to it anymore. But
it would be on Mondays. They would record it on Mondays, come out on Tuesday.
Oh, it's like super popular now, and like it's not as funny. Like it's like a comedian like Tom Segura. Like Tom Segura was way funnier when he was like fatter. That when he lost all the weight, like he started not being as funny. And like Your Mom's House, I listened to from the beginning. Like
I don't know what you're talking about, dude. I still think that Tom's like the funniest.
He's gotten funnier again because he's gotten fatter again.
It's like a baby.
When he was all thin and like all cranky, he wasn't funny at all. I was like, this sucks.
I'll also back YMH is one of the greatest podcasts ever.
Yeah. No, I mean, Duncan Trussell's my favorite. Probably
another
podcaster.
Duncan Trussell family.
Duncan Trussell's probably like the best, but I mean, he doesn't do enough, and he's just like.
See, I listened to him early before it was even Duncan Trussell Family Hour. It was called the Lavender Hour.
That's right. Yeah, me too.
Natasha, dude.
Yeah.
All right, now we're in the comedy weeds.
I think I said the one wrong. I think I said the name wrong. It was like, whose line is it anyways? That was that's what I was trying to talk about.
Those guys were shredders.
That's Greg Proops. Greg Proops. He's a fucking G.
Those guys were crazy, right? They were really good.
They were just have to think and be like, all right, have to like.
Okay, so imagine that, but totally X-rated. Everything goes, dude. Everything goes.
I mean, it's like anything. It's like music. It's like you start off with Black Sabbath and then you go off. It's like there's probably people now that are insane at that shit. It's like they take the next level. Take the like what you were saying earlier, Jeff, with like the bar up. The bars being raised constantly, and now there's probably like an insane improv bar. Now it's like I don't know. Right. It's just anyways. So music's cool.
Let's get back to porn.
What do you think? Hey guys, Jeff and Hunter, what do you guys think about Porno Grind? Get a little discussion about that.
Look, like I
he hates it. I hate it too.
I want to like something in that realm, but I everything I've heard just turns me off.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I grew up in an age where like it was kind of like leveling up for being extreme. So it was like, what's the next extreme thing? And it was kind of like, not that I ever really got into it, but like getting that I forget.
There might be like one cock and ball torture song that's got a
it's like an album where you just had it to show to your friends to be like, dude, this out it's so fucking weird.
Yeah.
It's such a good band name. It's like, how do you, I mean, seriously,
CBT, dude. CBT.
We had to play after him at Death Feast in Germany. Me and Casey did. And I was like, and the fucking crowd was going nuts. It was like a huge festival, and they were going nuts for him. And I'm like, shit.
Really?
I don't want to fucking have to play after these guys. Yeah, it was like the whole crowd was so stoked. There's like, it's one of those like, random festival crowds where there's like fucking blow up animals and the fucking like people are being all wacky and stuff. And we're like, shit, dude, we're just gonna be like decrepit birth. Like we're gonna be like, like we were like, we're not fun at all.
That's like the best band name ever. Just at Thanksgiving, like grandma's like, what did you do this year? I went on tour this summer. What's your band called? You're like, Cock and Ball Torture, grandma.
I actually told a lot of people that I was like, they were like, what's your band name? I'd be like, The Faceless. I don't know. I would tell Mike, Mike, dude, I'm telling everyone I'm in your band if they're like over a certain age because I just don't want to see the face. I'm like, have to explain.
I probably already told this story, but I told my nana what band I was in, and she was like, odorous mortem. That means smelly death, right? And I was like, no, it's odious, Grandma. It's hateful death.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Get it? Or cephalic carnage. She was like, what does cephalic carnage mean? I was like, Grandma, or Nana, you're actually making me think about that cephalic carnage. Like,
I was watching a
philosophical
documentary not long ago.
I think about it.
Head, dude. Cephalic's the head, right?
Yeah, totally. So the carnage of the dome, dude.
What was that, Hunter?
No, I was watching this documentary not too long ago, and they were interviewing the bassist from Cop Shoot Cop. I don't know if you guys remember them. They were like a 90s band. And one guy said how his mom was really upset about the band name. She's like, why are you talking about, killing police officers? He's like, no, Mom, it's about scoring drugs, shooting them in our veins, going on the nod, and then getting more drugs. She's like, oh,
It's like, okay.
that's okay.
Yes. I love that, dude.
Oh my god! Actually, one of my ex, they were from Romania, and I was like, "What band are you in?" I was like, "Decrepit Birth." He's like, "To crap the birth?" Like, well, we've been trying to
kind of still makes sense.
Yeah, it's like
it does make sense. Actually.
Oh yeah,
close enough. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's like what we always go on tour to people and try to make like funny names out of their names, and no one could do one for Decrepit Birth that was that good. And I was like, she just immediately just leveled up everyone. We'd be like. They'd be like, "Oh, Secret Bird was the funniest one." The Montreal people, the French people, they're like, "Secret Bird." They thought Secret Bird was so funny, and they would just like laugh, like die, we got him, Secret Bird, dude, we got you.
It was great. That was the best one.
Oh man,
Jeff, I had a question that I've been holding for a little bit. I'm not acting like have you heard my band? But I'm saying, what do you have any connection with the Cali death scene? Like,
I mean, Decrepit Birth, yes, which I like. Odious Mortem, I think I heard sort of more after the fact, like not when you started. You were or are on Willowtip?
We are, yeah, actually.
Yeah,
no, we're up in the air right now. We are actually up in the air, but we're in talks. It's not.
But the last 2 albums are on Willowtip.
Yeah,
but I mean, like, I definitely checked some out, and I think it's really good. It's just one of those things where it's time, quite honestly. But I liked it. I do like Decrepit Birth. I don't know a ton of the SoCal stuff, I have to admit.
Okay.
It's just not an area or world I've explored or taken the time.
Yeah, I was just wondering if any.
That means he's not going to write the book, so I have to write the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're past the torch to.
We'll send you a couple CDs in the mail with a pair of sandals.
I'm wearing sandals right now too, by the way.
I just
that's awesome. Actually,
candy right now.
I kind of want to. So we have. It's probably like way too late, but we have some questions people have asked. Let's me kind of save them. So we had Lee from a Stratosphere on here. So Lee.
Lee, man.
Yeah, Lee was jumping in here a bunch.
He was in the chat.
You guys were like, I was so interested, I didn't want to like interrupt, but we have. So he basically first he wanted to say there was a Canvas Solaris fun fact that he's got for you, and he said that the first Stratosphere tour was at Atlanta show that he did. Your bachelor party?
Correct. My bachelor party was at a Stratosphere show at the Earl in Savannah.
You're like the coolest dude ever.
What, dude?
I mean, to have a Stratosphere at your bachelor party, that's the best fucking idea I've ever heard in my life.
That was probably the most humbling show I had ever seen in my life.
Oh, yeah,
like, not only were they amazing, like when they started, and they just all switched instruments, and they were better than like anyone on that instrument.
Yep.
Yeah. It was that band is mind blowing every time. Every motherfucking time I saw.
Yeah, it was on the Palace of Mirrors tour too, and like
fuck yeah.
When they were everybody was just pristine sharp, dude.
Dude, they were fucking amazing. And Lee had some connection to Statesboro, Georgia, which is my hometown. Like someone, it was either his girlfriend's brother or a relative of his went to the college in Statesboro.
Okay.
I don't
they left.
Exactly
they left already, but they did all the good nights. Cause that was like, fuck. I was gonna ask your questions, but Lee's a Georgian.
He'll hear this. He'll hear this post.
Well, Lee, reach out, man. I'd love to reconnect.
Fuck yeah.
We used to talk on MySpace.
Oh,
dude,
was it your space?
we were just talking about it the last time he was in the chat for the last show as well, and that brought Lee back into my perception because like I haven't heard of that from that guy in so long, but he was somebody that I always wanted to get on the show. We've all probably mentioned it independently with who we wanted to get on the show. Like Lee's definitely a dude that was in it with us, like at the time where shit was really going down in Santa Cruz, and
Totally.
a Stratosphere was, you know, showing their, you know, how advanced they were at that time too, and Lee being a part of that was just so, dude, and seeing all that happen at the time was, I wish everybody could experience it, dude.
Well, I mean, what brought Lee back into this whole scene was, to be honest with you, I might have brought it up last episode, but a dude we used to take care of, we were caretakers for this guy, Jesse Houts, passed away. It was like he basically, like, he had this really rare form of muscular dystrophy, and he only wanted like he only wanted bands that he liked, like band members, to take care of him, because he was like 24-hour care kind of guy. But he had his own podcast. I just watched. He interviewed fucking Chong from Cheech and Chong. He's like Black Dahlia Murder, like all these, like he's like stuck obviously in a bed, and his bottom lip doesn't work. Yes, his like his tongue has his bottom lip, but dude is like, to like, a shift with him was listening to the coolest music, watching the coolest movies. The dude was like out there. He wrote books too. He was like, he was a very smart guy. He was very cool to hang out with. So Lee actually introduced me to him, and then that's when I was touring. I was taking care of Jesse. Then Jesse passed away, and Lee reached out to me, and he got back on social media, and then he jumped in like a day or two later. So that was kind of like the conduit of Lee coming back. I like looked through my phone, and I don't have his phone number anymore. And I was like, actually wanted to reach out to him to like talk to him about it, and through the social media fabric, we all like reconnected again. But
very positive, dude. Everything that I've experienced, I haven't experienced much of that guy, but you know, seeing his podcast, and
I mean Cheney from Entheos, and like she was taking care of him.
You can totally tell that dude was like, you know, a very positive mind. Unfortunately, imprisoned in a vessel that wasn't working properly, but like, for him to be able to be that positive and be a good person and really show it, dude. He really showed that he was a great person. Like,
it was crazy. I mean, like hanging out with him, like he had like celebrity friends. Like I'd be hanging out with him, and like fucking like Billy Corgan would call him, and like and like the guys from Ween. He was their #1 fan from Ween, Ween like just knew him, and they would just call him and have to hold the phone up to him, and it was like, you know, he was so into it. Like if you look at, like I talked about it last time, but if you go to like a bookstore and go to a Santa Cruz picture book for Santa Cruz, California, it'll have pictures of him like in it. You know, he always like,
awesome.
He always called himself like, I'm the fucking hippest fucking cripple here, motherfucker. Like,
what up?
No, he was sick, dude. But no, I've fucking R.I.P. to that guy. That was sad to hear. But he was like scheduled to live 15 years, lived like almost 50. So. Fucking,
well, just Lee resurfacing in general, dude. It's just like another tie back to when things were super, and it's not that they're not awesome now, but I'm just saying, like, you know, that feeling of being young, and like Hunter, you can attribute or connect with this as well when you're in your early 20s and you're just on fire and wanting to just continue to just push the envelope. Like Casey and I have had this conversation recently, or we've talked about it on the podcast too, where music was recorded too fast because we were just so amped up. But it's just like this young, early 20-year-old dude that just has to like bleed this something, whatever it is, where we have to excrete this something into our creativity and push boundaries and all that. I don't even know where I'm going with this diarrhea of mouth, but I'm just saying, like, what is it, guys? Like, what is it that drives us at that time in our lives, and then gives us this trail off where we're 37 years old and we're like, yeah, dude, we still want to do it, dude, because it felt so good back then, you know?
Yeah, it's a different experience when you get older, for sure. Like I'm like as busy as I've ever, probably busier musically than I've ever been. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing. I can think back to like playing, you know, live with Canvas back when I was like 21, 22, and like just that's about as alive as I'm ever going to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was like, I mean, and if I died tomorrow, it's like, well, I had that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I feel really I mean, yeah, I feel really fortunate to have felt that at one point. I mean, I think we could all share that.
And we go through these. You and I both went through the phase of, okay, now we're dad. Okay, it's these archetypes that we're setting up, and then we sit in a certain archetype because it may be easy or it may be something that we need to pay attention to. So the archetype of the vocalist or the drummer or all that gets put away for a little bit, and the archetype of being dad is like the main thing. But like, then we get to a homeostasis as dad, and we realize, okay, now we can actually keep this at a level.
Both.
Yeah. Now we've been able to maintain the course of this ship for long enough to where now we can put it on autopilot for a little bit and actually pay back attention to the artist archetype that we used to be before we were dad.
Yep.
You know, even though it's never it's never went away. It never went away. All of a sudden, there'd be like little bursts of creativity while we were dad, you know, and we write them down or lose them, as we tend to do sometimes. We always think that we're going to remember them, but no, got to write it down, guys. Get an idea, write that shit down as soon as you can, dude, because no matter how much you tell yourself you're going to remember it, you're not going to remember it. Okay.
No.
So Lee had one more question in the chat from a while ago. It was, what's up with all those splash symbols on those Canvas Solaris albums?
I thought it was gonna be he said those drum.
No. That's not the question.
But it's still like drum related though. He's two questions.
He wants to know what's up with the splash symbols on the Canvas Solaris albums.
I love it.
Yeah, both. Sorry, I fucked that up.
You got a lot to answer.
Sean Reinert, probably.
That's a good answer.
One word, Sean.
I will say this, like, I mean, like Atomized Dream and Radiance have I don't think there's a splash symbol on a Radiance, actually. And Nathan made me bring the splashes back for a Chromosphere. Before it was Sean Reinert, now it's Nathan. So, internal pressure.
I just put two of mine in as a stack, and I'm like, oh, there we go. Now I can have all my symbols.
I was doing the pre-production demos for the next Sculptured record, and I had a old Wuhan that I was using on the first round.
Quick shout out! I forgot to say that, dude. You're the drummer of Sculptured now, dude. What the fuck?
I'm pretty stoked about that. Yeah, they were an early in band.
The end. Yep.
Yeah.
That's one that I didn't mention earlier. Yep.
My China broke, so I just took an 8 and a 10-inch splash and stacked them and used that. So.
Nice. I did the same thing.
You know what, Lee? I've got a question for you. What's your problem with What's your problem, man?
Yeah, man.
I know, but he'll be able to.
I told him.
Back
he asks questions and then he goes to bed.
I know.
We'll get him on the episode and we'll bring it up.
He's like,
yeah. We'll get him on. Yeah, we'll bring you on. Just like
I tell you what, fly me in.
Nice.
Don't tell him, and we'll have a cage match.
Dude.
Yeah.
First Cali Death Productions funded metal drummer off.
Oh no, Lee's like a way better drummer. I'm not doing that. But I'll fight with him about splash cymbals.
You can probably beat him
like
up.
I won't compete with him in drumming, but I'll fight his ass, dude.
Here's a pretty fucked up question for both of you guys. It's very general and very simple, but for you guys, it's probably gonna go down some deep paths. But what was the band we haven't heard of but need to check out?
Before.
I have one.
Can you mute Casey?
Is that for us?
No,
that's for you.
That's for you guys. Sorry.
I'll say Stargazer from Australia.
Oh fuck yeah, I love Stargazer.
Okay, maybe everybody's heard of them. But I'm their defense attorney here in the U.S. So.
Oh yeah.
I would say Malacarpidon. Anybody that's into like Master's Hammer root, kind of like mystical Eastern European dark metal.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Hell
check
yeah.
them out.
And then we have a really long question.
And too, like, these guys are obviously well known, but anybody that has not checked out the new Deathspell Omega record,
yeah.
It's amazing.
Always
Fuck
a band that
It's
hits
incredible.
me hard, dude.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this
I don't
one's
know
this one's a bit different.
There's so many times where people are like, "Oh, this one's a little bit different."
I know, but
Yeah,
this one is. Yeah.
Yeah.
This one actually is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Go
So this one's like a huge paragraph, so I don't know if it's gonna show up on here. Oh damn, it did.
Okay.
It's okay. So it said, yeah, this is, I don't know, I can't read.
I'll read it. All right. On Radical Research, I've heard so many name drops that I didn't think anyone else knew about, like Deserts of Tron, Sculptured, What Up Hunter, Frantic Bleep, Maudlin of the Well, Traditionalist, etc. Maybe you can help me with this one. Trying to track down this French band from the MySpace days who played avant-garde groove metal with two vocalists similar to Sixth / System of a Down, began with an A.
I was thinking about Unexpect at first. They were French Canadian.
I'm racking my brain here.
I mean, could it be Arcturus that they're saying?
No.
Arcturus is Norwegian. Sorry.
The kind of thing they're talking about was a sort of French thing. It's what Gojira grew out of, and there's a lot of that sort of Sixth meets System of a Down groove, technical, weird shit from France.
Yeah, because Unexpect wasn't
I'm
like
blanking.
groove heavy. I mean,
No,
it was
groove
avant-garde,
No.
more like circus metal at times and
That's
jazz influence.
That's that French, right?
Yeah.
That's at French, yes. They're Unexpected's Canadian, so
French Canadian.
French Canadian, yeah.
I'm drawing a blank, I guess.
Yeah.
Got him.
We'll do some radical research and get back to you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's awesome.
Go to Metal Archives and hit the A's and just
just start.
and then you whittle it down to French bands.
He found it.
Yeah, you'll find it in a couple days. You found it?
Someone in the chat.
Oh shit! The chat's going off.
Acarize.
He just got it. Yeah.
What is it?
What is it?
Acarize.
Acarize. I don't know. How do you spell that? Yeah, I've never heard of that.
What that is.
Never heard of that.
Yep.
Okay.
Well,
all right.
They had a song with the Bluegrass Breakdown.
Okay.
Oh, didn't everybody? So did Between the Berries and Me.
They have six monthly listeners on Spotify. They're pretty obscure.
It's only the band members.
Yeah.
The professor coming in hot with the info.
We're going to be doing a Dave Murray show, though. We're going to do Deserts of Tron and Tholus pretty soon.
Underrated. Nice. Probably the next 2 or 3, yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be fun.
Yeah. You go for it, Joel.
I know I was going to talk about our first troll, but...
let's hear about him.
I was gonna ask you guys.
He may be like one of their homies, dude. You know.
No, I think it was. He was all Hunter. Have Hunter read the chat. And he just kept like blowing. Like it was like 25 like messages per like one of other people's, and I was like, all right, I put him on time. You can do timeout on Twitch, so it was like timeout for 10 minutes. And just right when 10 minutes came up, he's all.
What did he say though?
He was making fun
shit or no?
No, it wasn't good shit at all. It said, can we get a sick Odious Morning breakdown with a spin kick?
That's pretty cool. What are you talking about, dude?
Well, I mean, he said way worse shit than that. Was the most tame thing I could find.
So you're being positive and just putting.
Well, I mean, dude, we got a troll. That's awesome. Can we fucking get a round of applause? Whatever the chat does for applause for fucking. We got a troll. That was awesome. My name is Joel Rhymes.
Well, he knows about Hunter, obviously, so maybe he wasn't.
He's all have Hunter read the chat.
Yeah, he probably is like his friend.
Yeah. All right. Question for you guys. Lycathia Flame, Elven Ephraim.
Love it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good album. Very good album.
Is it radical research worthy?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely in our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Their drummer, Thomas.
Sorry.
Their drummer, Thomas Korn, is active on Facebook, so I've been thinking of reaching out to him.
Oh, okay.
I was just saying it'd be cool to like go into the Appalling Spawn days and all that. That could totally be a whole episode on Radical Research, the Pauling Spawn to the
Yeah.
Lycathia Flame, and
I mean, there's a million. I think I asked you in this last episode, Hunter, like if we have 80 more in us, because we just reached we're going to be doing our 80th episode soon, and he was like, "Fuck yeah!" I mean, it's limitless, man.
Or another band that I'd love to hear you guys talk about is TOOH, or the Obliteration of Humanity.
Yeah.
From the Czech Republic.
I like some of their stuff. Some of it I haven't liked, and then I haven't heard everything. So
yeah,
I'm not sure how much you've kept up with them, Hunter. But
I haven't kept up. I was kind of into them like in the early 2000s. It's like, go ahead.
No, I got really turned off with that Earache album. I think partly it had this sticker on it and said like recommended if you like Mars Volta, Tool, Meshuggah, and some maybe
very bad direction.
Maybe Morbid Angel, but I was like, it sounds great on paper, but it was.
I love all those bands, but that is definitely not what I would put on the sticker for that.
Exactly. It was a weird sticker, but I just it wasn't like the sticker. I had heard them before. I had the previous album. I still have that.
Yeah, it's definitely an acquired taste. But there, if you just get below the surface of it, you realize there is a lot of genius in it, and then you figure out that when you go deeper, then you find out one of the guys is schizophrenic, and then
I heard that
how it actually, then it folds back into the music for you when you realize that, and you follow it deeper down the rabbit hole, and there is a lot of bursts of not genius, but what I'm saying, like those flares that we all look for in music that you're like, oh yeah, that they got it right there. That hit me in a certain sense. TOH is actually giving me that a lot. So, and obviously it's to each their own, but I'm saying that I always thought that TOH would be a band that maybe Radical Research could dig on. And if you guys don't like it, you don't like it. But maybe
they're definitely in our wheelhouse, and I'd kind of like to start. I don't know how we do it, but I'd kind of
there's a lot of back releases that never made it over to the States at all, dude.
By that band, you mean?
By that band, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'd like to start doing stuff on Radical Research where we cover things that maybe we don't know inside and out and aren't experts on. That'd be kind of fun. But I suppose that's a frontier for when we start running out of things that we do know. Yeah. I have to charge my laptop here, so I'll be right back.
Go for it, dude. Go for it. Or weird grind stuff, dude. Like, I'm trying to remember. The Czech Republic's got a really good catalog of actually grindy, super fast, weird shit, dude. I'm trying to remember another band. Alienation Mental.
That's wow. I haven't heard that band in so long.
Boom.
Shit.
Alienation Mental, dude. Go if you want to hear like Ball Spouter. That album, Cephalic, on Origin. On the they smoked a bunch of Origin and then went
wow.
Their weed of choice that night was Origin, and
I haven't heard that band name in probably 15 years. That was kind of like when I was coming up and trying to find new bands when I was a kid. That was some random fucking band that we got into. It's like
taking Disgorge and Origin and pushing it through a Czech.
I'm listening.
Yeah.
Dude. I wonder how it would translate nowadays. It's been over a decade, because it was insane, extreme kind of grind back in the day. That's how I took it.
Hey, let's hear it real quick. Let's just somebody pull it up, dude. Alienation Mental, Ball Spouter.
Dude. I'm not fucking Jamie from the Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah, you are. I'm gonna go pee, and then when I get back,
monkey, pull it up.
Bring it up.
Yeah. Okay.
Who are we talking about?
Have we?
Alienation Mental.
Oh, okay.
It's a random throwout band from remember bands like Goratory and stuff like that, back in the it was back in those days. It was like I heard Goratory and I've never heard anything like that, and there was this band Alienation Mental. People were you have to check this band out, they're crazier. And it was I'm in fucking high school. This is 2001 or 2 or something, But it's a great. I just haven't heard the name in so long; it just blew my mind. But anyways, it's one of those. It was really good at the time, but probably is terrible now. So that's how things work. That's how time works, guys.
Yeah.
But
remember Psyopus? Is it Psyopus?
Psyopus.
Oh, it's Psyopus.
I still talk to
Yeah.
Chris. I still talk to Chris all the time. Dude,
Yeah.
he won that guy won the Guitar Center nationwide a competition for like best guitar player or like
Wow.
most unique guitar player back in like I want to say 2005 or 4. Chris
Wow,
Arp. Yeah, no, he'll do songs with no pick, which only tapping and
Yeah.
insane stuff. And he just went out there and there's people doing like shredding country and blues and stuff like that. And he went out there and did that stuff, and people were like, "What the fuck is this?"
Mhm.
And he kind of disappeared after that. That band kind of went away for a while, and I guess he's kind of trying to bring it back a little bit, but very underrated. He was just basically, I think he was just not into he toured for a while and was like, "Fuck, god damn it."
I think Hunter and I saw them live, didn't we?
We did.
With Dysrhythmia and Behold the Octopus.
Oh fuck
Yeah.
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 Was that in North Carolina here?
Yeah, it was in it was like in Burlington or something.
Yeah, weird, dude. That Burlington, really?
Yeah.
Some sort of coat factory.
Yeah, something like that.
yeah, it was. Yeah,
That's where I was able to sneak my dad's hooting and hollering in, and you introduced that to which guy?
yeah, Charlie
Charlie
Zelani. Yeah.
It's
Oh, nice.
It ain't nothing but a bunch of hooting and hollering.
Oh man, Behold the Arctic.
I just realized if we probably pulled that up, it wouldn't translate well because I know the YouTube, like pulling up videos on this shit, the audio quality already. Because I said pull up Alien Nation Mental, but then I was thinking about League. I was like, dude, if that would just because it's
I have
weird,
it right here.
crazy grind.
How is
like,
it? How is it, Joe? I called you Joe.
It's about to drop. Let's see.
It's about to drop.
Is
hard,
it worth?
dude.
Is it worth showing?
Are you watching?
It's worth
Are you
showing,
listening to
probably.
Ball Spouter?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
dude.
best album.
Your Discord's drumming.
Anthony
part of your brain.
went pissed and just brought it right back to like 3 minutes ago.
Well,
Sounds
now
pretty
he's
good.
listening to it too, though.
Pulls it back in time. Yeah.
So guys,
funny.
I know we're coming up on what must be past midnight for you, if not later.
Oh, it's definitely past midnight. Yeah.
Yeah.
12:21, which is a neat
Well,
inversion of 21:12.
Speaking of which,
Jeff can tell you guys, I wouldn't do this for anyone else. And in
No.
fact, Jeff was even like, "How is this possible?" Because I go to bed at like 9 o'clock.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we've been hanging out.
Oh, we love you
sometimes,
guys.
and you'll be like,
I
nodding
appreciate
off.
it.
I'm like, this guy has narcolepsy.
Dude,
But then I just realized. Then I found out it was just him. So it's not
Yeah.
narcolepsy.
well,
at all.
dude,
The guy he
really,
wakes up early though. He wakes up earlier than all of us. I'm sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
I deeply appreciate, dude. I appreciate you guys coming on and giving us all anytime you guys want. Like I've always been excited.
Ground
for this
sloth, ground
episode.
sloth, ground
because-
sloth,
Oh,
ground
yeah.
sloth,
Dude,
ground
so I
sloth.
tried to find that thing. And I went to like some pretty extreme lengths to find it actually.
Okay.
And no one knows the
Ah,
whereabouts
shit.
of Archie. Jeff, do you remember Archie?
Archie,
Our ground
dude.
sloth? The canvas, and we would like put he like spoke for us. We didn't we would put poster boards and shit like
For the
Blurbs.
song names.
This is a bit of canvas lore I don't know. How is that possible?
you've seen it.
There's a
You've
video
been
of
to
it that I
shows
was like
Archie.
obsessed with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We even had an
we
idea
have a clip.
to
If you go to our
resurrect.
podcast- or our YouTube is a clip of.
We had an idea. We were gonna. None of us are artistically inclined at the moment, but we wanted to reenact. We wanted to
No, I wanted to have it. I want the ground
We
sloth
wanted-
right here for every episode until I
I know.
stop doing
so
this.
we're gonna
like,
try
right
and
here.
at least resurrect
here.
it, like make one for you. But we were
That would be-
My birthday is July 27th.
okay.
No,
All right,
that's-
dude, noted.
I give it some time, dude.
No, me and Carrie, we were obsessed with it. We used to watch those like last episode we talked about. We would watch those before YouTube, pre-YouTube. We'd find Canvas Solaris on like hotline, like random file transfer hubs and stuff, and we got Canvas, a full Canvas show, And we were like, what the fuck? And there was just a ground sloth like holding the song title, and then you just rip the next song off.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I remember we did one. We used to do those like the poster boards right before the show, and we had a song called "Pattern Spiral into Swarm," and then like we put it up, and then Donnie did some parentheses and put on a motherfucking plane.
Nice.
That's
Dude,
so awesome, man.
See, it's really this makes me very happy though, Hunter, that like and being able to meet Jeff through the podcast and all that stuff. But really, I mean, the whole reason why this is happening right now is because Odious was a fan of Canvas, dude, and it never stopped being that way, you know. And it's fun to think that like we could talk about what 17 years ago. I'm listening to your band. And I'm trying to tell everybody in Odious about your band too. Like, listen to this shit. Awesome. And then now here we are.
But it's fine.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Don't tell me that Josh brought this band.
No, it was Carrie.
Absolutely not.
I guarantee it.
It was totally Josh.
Oh my gosh! All right,
but
that's fine.
Oh
I know. I don't know. I don't care how you guys found Canvas. I'm gonna say right now.
Whatever story makes you happy, I love you to death. You're one of my best friends
my
forever.
Story is,
and I will be anywhere you need me to be at any time. You're one of my best friends.
I'm sitting at my kitchen table at my parents' house, and I'm flipping through a magazine, and I already brought it up on the show. I find this quarter or half page of Tribunal. You already heard this fucking story, Joel, and you're like, oh dude, now you're saying that it isn't the story. What the fuck are you talking about?
No, you didn't listen to the last podcast. We got the same argument.
We're in this podcast right now, though.
Doesn't make it any different. The past is still the past.
And in that past podcast, I'll say, I know you guys think it was Josh. It wasn't Josh.
It was Carrie Gear. Just letting you know.
Carrie didn't tell me about this band, dude.
Okay, we won't get this argument right now.
All right.
Look how important it is.
I know my story. I probably had way more listens with Canvas than all y'all motherfuckers. So what up?
Might be true. I think you and Carrie are the top. I'm like maybe third place because Carrie was obsessed. Carrie like would like.
I'm not saying that he wasn't.
No, but Carrie would like be obsessed over the guitar and like write stuff. Is like, this is my Canvas riff, like literally, like in music that he's written. So like it was like one of his favorite bands, for sure.
Awesome. Totally, dude. And we all found it around that same time, and it was one of those pivotal moments of like, oh, dude, I like instrumental prog music, dude. For me, I literally was like, oh, dude, yeah. And actually, I'll say that like Canvas may have even pushed me into going down the instrumental music path deeper and finding more underground instrumental bands. You know, as a vocalist, you're like, I always want vocals, but at the same time, like, what's this? And then I'm like, oh, now at 37, instrumental music is actually what I like more. I don't really like.
I'm rating Max right now, by the way. Just want to get Max some people. Love you guys.
Oh, nice, dude. Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Max Anomalous. Hunter, you ever heard the band Anomalous? Or Jeff? What is this?
Casey found the
rave music
button, dude.
Rave music? This is
so the cool thing about I think you guys actually like now that I've sent everyone away, I feel like you guys should do the Twitch thing. It's actually I got talked into it and I was like, Twitch, that's for video games. I don't know if I'm down with this. And then I was seeing a bunch of like metal bands and stuff or metal people like have these kind of conversations. You could have a group of friends. Max, our buddy Max, is online. We just sent all of our viewers just now to him. Like now, they're all gonna see a new thing.
Are we
that
not
they're
live?
like,
Are we live still?
We're still live. I mean, yeah.
I was like, what are we at right now?
Oh no, we're live. But I mean, I sent 15 or 20 people to him.
Cool conversation.
That's great. No, I was just wondering.
That's why people were saying bye there because they like see it coming. I guess they can see it coming on there. I'm learning still. But yeah, it's cool. You could send people that you're like, oh, like this cool person's on that, like doing something. Like let's send a band that a cool band that's doing something. Let's have you check it out, and like, and then they can return the favor, and it's kind of like a cool thing.
Tell Max to shred over some Canvas Solaris tonight, dude.
Oh, we could actually do that right now. I know.
Totally
I know. Hunter's on the out and out, so we gotta wind this down. I don't want to.
It's all good.
Fucking East Coast.
I'm just saying. Then we can have like a little like bonus feature. Boom! If we get Max to do it.
Oh yeah.
Shred over some.
He'll definitely do it.
Cosmic microwave. What's that fucking one?
Yeah.
I'll try to clip it.
Radiation.
Yeah, cosmic microwave background radiation. Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Can you do the last song title on the EP, the first EP?
Oh shit.
The really long title.
Yeah, dark matter accretion disk and binary neutron star in a self-reproducing. It's self-reproducing universe?
I think you got it.
No. It's dark matter, accretion disk and binary neutron star in a self-inflationary universe.
Nice.
Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think.
Fantastic.
Oh, that's great, dude. I love that. Well, should we wrap it up, dudes? Let's do it.
Hey, thank you guys. This was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Yeah,
you guys are great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Totally,
Thanks,
Jeff
man.
and Hunter. I'm so
Respect
glad
to you
that
guys.
we can finally get this going. Like I said before, it was something that we wanted to do for a long time. The professor, I wanted him to get on with Jeff because he's, talking about wanting to start writing a book and stuff. And I thought it'd be cool to get you guys together and talk about that. So yeah, dude.
No,
This
thanks
is
for
great.
answering my questions and just
Anytime.
I'll probably reach out to you again at some point, man.
Please do.
It's been an inspiration to follow your work. And
Wonderful. If anybody wants to get a hold of me, and you, of course, I imagine you're all in touch with Hunter with personal email and stuff, so he can pass on mine. I think that's probably the easiest way to go.
Cool.
Awesome.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, please
awesome,
do.
man.
Please do.
And you guys are still selling some Radical Research T-shirts on the
website. We
website.
still have the it's got the
Keep
logo
Metal
on
Weird.
the pocket. Keep Metal Weird and Keep Prog Weird on the back.
Nice.
I think once we're through those, we're gonna make new ones that say.
I had no idea, guys. I want
Yeah.
so bad, dude.
I'm
buying it, dude.
We're probably gonna make new ones that say "blow that mind that doesn't blow."
Okay, but I want the
fuck yeah.
first one. Don't get rid of. There's a medium. I want a medium of the. If you
Oh, you
still
do?
have it. Yeah,
Keep Metal Weird.
I'm gonna
It's for
buy
sale.
it, dude. No, I don't want you to give it to me. I'm gonna buy it.
Like a medium, you fat motherfucker. I'm just kidding. I'm fat. I'm the fattest one here.
I'll look for a triple XL for you.
I'm the fattest one here. I can call people fat, dude. It's like, that's per the agreement.
Can we,
But
can we
yeah,
hang
thank
out
you
for a
guys for coming
little
on.
bit?
What's up? Go for
Can we
it.
hang out for a little bit after the guest dip, just a
No.
Few
Please.
minutes.
I mean, look-
yeah, let's do it.
few minutes
All right.
after they're gone? Cool.
No
All right,
way.
yeah. Let's
No way.
do a wrap up. But thank you guys
All
for
right.
showing up.
Yeah.
I fucking
Thanks,
love
guys.
your fucking podcast, and it's
Cheers.
fucking, like I said, like even the fact
Oh,
that
yeah.
if you're not even a band that you're like into and stuff, you guys really talk about things really in depth and very cool, and everyone should check it out. And Anthony, take it away.
Radical Research, guys. Hit it up at every place that you listen to podcasts. I listen to it on Apple Podcasts, so it's easily found.
Spotify too.
Spotify too.
Stitcher.
Thank you to everybody that was hanging out in the chat. Thank you to all the subscribers. It still keeps growing. We love everybody. We talked about community tonight. We have a community. Radical Research has a community. We love that we all have these communities. Let's merge some Radical Research. Get some Radical Research Cali Death community going. All right, I'm talking too much. I love you guys. I'll see you guys. Actually, I'll see you on Sunday.
Oh yeah, we got a big episode Sunday.
Love you
Yeah.
guys. Noon Sunday.
Fuck
Keep
yeah.
that open because
yeah.
this one's gonna be fun.
Fuck yeah.
All right, rock on.
Love you guys.
Gentlemen.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.